There it is.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, Seann.
Shoes up.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Seann.
Pedro. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Good.
Glad that we got paired on this.
Oh, this looks cool.
yeah. For now.
If you don't fake it, then you're cool.
Where did we meet, Seann?
Yeah, we met at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I think
With Chris Smith,
with Chris Smith,
who was on the New Year's episode of the
cleverest
show.
Oh, okay.
party names I've ever heard of, because that's her name, Chris Smith. And then she was born on the 25th,
Holy shit.
and so she
On
has a party called Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
So that's what you guys
It's
met.
very quiet.
Funny recently.
I think so.
perfect.
That was right. That's right, isn't it?
That's where we
Yeah.
met. Yep.
So like what triggered, for example, like, you know, what topic of conversation were you like, oh, I want, you know, Seann to be on?
We talked and connected. I think more than I could say I connected with anybody new at the party.
Mm.
So
Yeah, we were.
I liked our conversations about AI, and we talked, about philosophy. There's a lot of different stuff about
remember exactly
painting,
what we
art history. We were both a little schnockered.
It was a
yeah.
little, it was a little late in the evening. But, I just stopped talking to everyone else, started hanging out with him for a while.
Mm. Big mistake.
and
Biggest mistake in your life.
here I am. Yeah, so
I mean, I think I've known Adam for like on and off for like 4 or 5 years. Like he used to paint he used to have a studio where my partner has her studio, the Flatiron.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, it's funny, like we met maybe like 5 years ago, then, I don't know, pre-pandemic, kind of like, I didn't stop by the building at all, and then the pandemic happened, and then we randomly bumped into each other at a similarly at a party. I think it was pre-Christmas.
This was
so not quite.
just end of last year. This was at Penny's studio in the Flatiron,
Right.
and again another guest on the show. Penny was in episode 2 with Elizabeth Schmidt.
And so similarly, I'm like, even though I knew people stuff at the party, whatever, like somehow we ended up talking for a while, and that's when he told me about his, the show and everything, and sort of this new endeavor. And he was like, oh, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I remember. I was just like, I thought it was a really cool idea. It is a cool idea.
Right. Most of the time I go out of the way to not meet people.
Yeah.
Right?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, so I'm an editor, and so that's why
Okay.
I'm usually at home just
Yeah.
editing.
What do you edit? I mean, you could be like, what do you edit?
Oh,
like
documentary.
documents, videos, people's lives. I mean,
Documentary, yeah. Which I guess is sometimes people's lives.
also
yeah.
still a broad category. What kind of doc? Do you edit like ancient manuscripts or comic strips that change what they are, memes?
Good question.
That memes would be fun. No, like for the last couple of years, it's been like social issue documentaries. Like I don't know if you're familiar with like Cartemquin films.
Nope.
They made a bunch of like social issues films.
What's the name of it once more?
Cartemquin?
Cartemquin?
Is that a person or a genre?
You're going to have to send me some links for that.
Yeah. It's like I think it's technically like a portmanteau of like 3 different last names: Carter, Temener, and Quinn. But yeah, I mean, I started working there a couple of years ago, and so now documentaries, whether it's like social issues, like policy, education, and then most recently, I was working, like the reason why I finally like freed up to even undertake this is like I was working on like a Marvel, like Black Panther 2 soundtrack documentary.
Oh, cool.
And so I finally wrapped that up, and yeah, so it ranges. Like I mean, it's documentary, like
That's
real
you've got all.
stuff.
I can't imagine the NDAs on that. How much you can actually talk about
I think now because they like
now that it's out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
no, it comes out next month, but
Got it. Yeah.
Initially I couldn't talk about it.
Uh-huh.
So now, because they announced it like on YouTube, there's like the trailer and everything.
Yeah.
Like now it's fine to talk about.
Okay.
But initially they were like no posting.
Don't say
no,
anything.
Sure,
say
of course,
technology.
yeah.
It had like a code name and everything. But
Uh-huh.
we can't.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What was the code name?
Dream Cafe.
Dream Cafe. That's
It's literally
funny.
Yeah. I don't know how.
That's,
But yeah.
Well, you would never guess.
No. And even like Black Panther 2 was called Summer Break. like that was the code name when they were shooting it. So
Yeah, if someone were trying to infiltrate, they would not, and they were just
Right.
guessing code names, they probably wouldn't have
Right.
come up with that.
I think like movies that shoot in Chicago too, they add those like code names. So in case like people, you see them parked outside of like a building or whatever, they're like, oh, what are you guys shooting here? And they're always like, Dream Cafe, and people are like, all right, well, I don't know what that is.
Nope.
I forgot what like when they were shooting The Dark Knight here, they similarly had like Charlie's Day Out or some shit like that. They had like something.
To call it.
You know what I mean? Like it's completely conspicuous. They would know.
I mean, they must have a lot of laughs about that.
It sounds like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like they're
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
So what do you do?
Currently, I'm unemployed.
Okay, what were you doing before?
I was doing software engineer,
Cool.
and worked in space doing for a long time back-end billing and building stuff for large companies that, on the back end. But recently, I started working on some research and development things. Kind of moved into the space of artificial intelligence. Not necessarily that, because work I would call it machine learning, applied machine learning.
Oh, cool.
Doing things like helping people find searching and just I don't know, helping people, trying to make people's lives better, easier, faster with newer and later technologies. The idea.
Yeah, I mean, like, is it like productivity, but also like sort of like helping, like
go around, like ask people what can I help you with, like figure out what people's problems are in an organization, and then sort of look around for the technologies that match with that. Which in this case were some more advanced technologies that are kind of cool. Although now everyone's freaking out because that stuff's starting to take over people's jobs.
Yeah.
Right? Like all these people just got laid off. So yeah, I quit my quit my job.
That's
And I was like,
happening
this is-
actively that we can see.
Yeah, I was like, this is I just got out in front of it. I was like, I'm not gonna get.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was happening, but so I quit, and then I was like, I'll just start my own business, and then everybody got fired in my industry. So I'm like, the market's flooded now. This is a little bit of an issue.
at least at least it wasn't like whoops,
God.
unemployed
Yeah.
unemployed by somebody else's choice.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the way to preface it. Like
That's right.
I'm unemployed by
I feel like
choice, not
I just
choice.
plan to get out in front of everything, So whatever, I'm still working on, and I think it'll be okay. But it just threw me off a little bit.
Naturally, yeah.
Do you find like, for like artists and for at least people in film and stuff, it's like we find that a lot of the workforce has gone to like, freelancing and sort of being independent. Like,
It's exactly what's happening.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
is that just a matter of like all industries kind of moving that
think
direction?
so.
And there's like a lot of projections that like the workforce in America is going to be like 50%.
It'll be like
Yep.
Uber for everything.
Yeah.
So nobody has health insurance with any given company.
Right.
Everyone's just kind of screwed in the same boat. Like,
That's exactty what it feels like, and it's finally hitting the tech industry.
yeah.
I think, which has been untouchable since the break of the .com thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, be in the tech industry, just make a bunch of money. No one can do anything about it.
Right.
Now, nope, it's changing. And once it hits there,
we're
it's
gonna
like
do
a
that.
little disconcerting for me, at least, because it's my industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find that you're in like specific sort of like fields within, like, is it education? Is it like corporate? Or do you basically bounce around like wherever the need is?
For me,
Yeah.
I'll work whatever feels
Wherever
necessary.
feels-
Yeah, it's
okay.
more of the applied technology kind of idea.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. Yeah.
No, it's fun.
Like when Adam said, AI, I was like thinking like, I haven't thought about AI like that. And since college, I remember one of my courses was like kind of sort of talking about projections of the future and like how there's been like landmark sort of like futurists, in the last, I mean, it's not like one of those things that people just go out and sort of like dedicate their time to and like become, but there's like a obviously like Arthur C. Clarke, he was like a novelist, but he's also like technically, I think, within the field of futurist, like,
I haven't read that since I was 14, maybe.
I've never read it. I just watched
It's
it.
been a long time. Yeah.
And the other one that like comes to mind is like I think his name was Rae Kurzweil. He's like, I think he got hired by Google like back in the early 2000s, whatever. I think, but he's like actually like an inventor, I think. But similarly, just kind of they think in like light years, terms like compared to most people about like how to progress with technology and sort of the benefits and just thinking of things that like we would never really think about. You know, it's like the the Jetsons, for example, like that's just like cool, you know, cartoon stuff, and I'm like, it's not necessarily that serious. Although it did come up in the course, like how some of those like things are, you know, manifesting themselves in different ways. Like,
we want to reach those pinnacles or those peaks in our imagination that
everybody really wants a
we
flying
set those
car,
benchmarks
right?
when we were children. To be like, we've got to see that.
Yeah.
If I don't see that, I'm going to be very unhappy.
We didn't make
so
it.
then people are trying to make it and make it.
The flying cars.
The flying car. I mean, if we don't get flying cars,
That's
we
fine.
have failed as a society, obviously.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take?
Like, I don't know. I think it's going to take. I don't know if it's ever going to happen.
What do
We
we
got
need to
flying
do that?
spaceship things that go to other places. Flying cars sound like a disaster. Honestly,
Oh,
have
yeah,
you seen
of
people
course.
drive in
Yeah.
Chicago?
Just on the road.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the last thing I want is that. I mean, there's autonomous vehicles.
Self-driving
Self-driving
cars.
self-flying.
That's something I can
driving
get
cars.
behind.
Self-flying exists to a certain extent already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest
Well, that's
extent,
true.
probably, yeah.
Yeah, until something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Then the pilot kicks, like the manual
Hopefully.
kicks in.
Hopefully. That's the hope, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. Can you talk more about those books? What specific examples do you remember from them?
For me, like in that course, I mean, you know, obviously like 2001 is like, you know, some of those like space technologies, like the way I remember being in high school too, and like I took a, you know, a physics course, and like my professor talking about like centripetal acceleration and how, you know, like I think that film came out in like '69, but they're probably shooting it right before that. And
Wait,
so
which
like,
film, sorry?
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
that's a great film.
Yeah, and so they're, you know, at that time, I like, you know, they were about to send the man to the moon, and like I think man had been in like space orbit barely, but like they were trying to figure out like, oh, how to get, I think, like gravity, you know, like to exercise or whatever in space. And so I think at the time, at least from what my professor was saying, was that the sort of like the big spinning thing in like 2001, like the spaceship, you know, like that thing rotates in order to create like fake
Artificial
gravity.
yeah.
Yeah, and so, but at the time it was like just a hypothetical thing. It wasn't like, hadn't been implemented. And I think now, like nowadays, like in the space station, they have those similar sort of mechanisms to like help, you know, astronauts sort of stay in shape and like run and stuff and like feel like a gravitational pull.
They do?
So,
I
like,
didn't know that.
so their limbs aren't like mush by the time they come back,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
once again, it's like those sort of technologies. I'm like hypothetical in the book by Arthur C. Clarke, but then it's like turns out it gets actually implemented in reality.
That's cool.
Kind of neat, yeah.
Feels good, right?
Yeah,
I think.
like the example from like the Jetsons was like the microwave. They were like, oh, you just put in this like frozen sort of like package into this box, you know, the microwave, and then it comes out like as a prepared meal. At the time, it was like.
Is that what they had, or did it automatically generate things? It couldn't have been on the Flintstones. That's the wrong time ago.
Star Trek?
Star Trek? I don't know. Oh, maybe it was Star Trek.
It was Star Trek,
Maybe.
yeah.
They put something in there. Or no, they just
like the
pushed
food
a button
comes
and
out.
then it made it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not very good with my TV show history.
Sure.
I'm like, maybe it's also like 3D printing for food. Like, is that a thing today?
I just got a 3D printer.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, yeah.
What do you use it for?
Those are fun.
Well, the first thing I printed was a dog, because that's the practice one. Then I printed a creepy baby,
Naturally, yeah.
which
Yeah.
is naturally. I mean,
Yeah.
my friend came over and she's like, I was like, what should I print? She's like, ooh, print this creepy baby.
Now that's playing God right there. It's literally playing God.
Was it like a template that was part of the thing?
Yeah, so I downloaded it
Yeah.
off the internet. You can download a bunch of stuff off there, and you can print it. Mostly I was just testing the printer, figuring out, because it's basically like a CNC machine. I mean, it is technically a CNC machine, but it's additive.
So does it use resin or is it?
Well, there's
Do you pour the resin or?
no. So
how does
it's
this work?
got plastic PLA.
Got it.
The one, mine's a cheap one.
Sure.
But and it feeds down in a tube, and then it heats it up,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's got this computer that moves it around like this really fast, and then it spits it out and layers it.
Kind of melts it. And...
Kind of melts it and layers it, and then it
Okay.
builds a thing, which they're using for building houses now.
Oh, that's
They also
interesting.
build like desserts.
We have the
So there is
resin.
food.
We've got the resin
printing.
printers at work
Yeah.
Those are cool. You can use
Those are fancy.
clear resin or
yeah.
that was fun. We made some pieces for a museum in
Very cool. Those are nice
for this fake Mars colony that at this museum.
What? Tell me more.
It was pretty cool. Which museum was that?
Maybe Science and
CSC in.
Okay.
Okay, not Philadelphia. What is the name of that other city? It's just with a P.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
And the museum was pretty cool. It's like it's this big landscape we made out of foam, and created that and carved that to look like the Mars landscape. And then we made we printed these little pieces, rovers and houses and science centers, community centers, and like these like fictional sort of like buildings that were dreamed up by the creative team in my job. And I had to process all of those prints as they came off the printers and expose them to UV light and paint them and then detail them and make them look like there was Mars dust on them and stuff. It was a really fun part of his job.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's a fun part of this job for sure. So that uses the resin printers, though. I can't tell you the names of them.
No, for sure.
But it looks so sci-fi that it's crazy.
Yeah.
They have this like orange and yellow plastic and things to protect from the UV light, and it couldn't look more like sci-fi, like some Ridley Scott thing. It's so cool.
Right.
Yeah, it's so fun to use that stuff. It is. It's like they borrowed directly from the science fiction for the commercial design of these sorts of technologies.
I mean, they're printing livers now. They're working on printing. What? So I was talking about desserts is cool too, because you can print like a cool piece of chocolate, but they're also printing livers. Yeah, so they shoot cells of certain types. I don't fully understand how this works, but they print a liver out of cells.
Like tissue or like
cell tissue that they put in this instead of plastic. They put cell tissue in it.
Okay.
And then they print. I don't know how it works.
Does it taste like the real thing?
It seems, it tastes like. It's supposed to be something that functions, and you can put in. Then you don't need liver transplants anymore.
This is a solution to the problem of cannibalism fetish.
We no
longer need to punish these.
No, they're going to be like, we know this is not the real thing.
No, this is not right.
This is the
This
beyond.
is fake. Yeah. Stop with that.
Stop with the beyond.
Yeah, we know this is different. We want real.
Oh my god.
That's not far-fetched. I mean, to think that, like you think about like heart transplants or any sort of organ transplant, like that sounds crazy back in the day, until it's done.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, or like getting pig valves, like for hearts and stuff. Yep. You're like, it's just tissue.
Yeah, they grew a lamb in outside of a body. Like they've got all kinds of crazy things they're doing.
That we know of.
That we know of, right? Yeah. Those are just the published ones.
Right.
What is the cost of like a 3D printer? Like, is it could it be a hobby?
The cost for me was free because my friend just gave it to me.
Oh, that's great.
It was in his garage.
That's a good friend.
Okay, cool.
Wow, I think he didn't have enough space for it. It was I think he got 2 of them by accident somehow from Amazon or whatever. He's like, here, have the other one.
I take it back. Maybe it's not a good friend.
Yeah. Sat in my garage for a while, and finally. I quit my job. I'm like, all right, I'll take a month or 2. What's all this stuff in my garage? I'll put this together.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like a fun endeavor, though, to sort of figure out how it works, seem like the applications. Like, the thing that comes to mind with those things, like, if I ever needed, like, a particular sort of, like, screw or something,
So that's exactly. So actually, I'm using it for. So I built this dance floor, this light-up dance floor, for my wedding, which was kind of. I made it out of wood, which is a huge mistake. But I worked with a friend of mine, and I wanted to do something cool for a wedding. So we did, I built the software, figured out how to do all the LEDs, been working with LEDs for a long time before they were really a thing. So a couple things apart. But we got that, tested the tensile strength of the clear. I had all these different materials I had to figure out to use, whether or not it was gonna bend or break. So I pick out all these different plastics and glass and stuff, and then I'd have different people come over and jump on it. Like I had a really heavy friend come over and just like big 300-pound something, whatever, and just like jump on it, and I'm like, that's too bendy. And then I'd have girls come over in stilettos and stomp on it. And originally I had like one of the infinity mirrors down there. So you look in the square, and it's an infinity mirror. One of the girls came over, and she's like, no, you can see right up my skirt on this one.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
You probably shouldn't use this.
That's good that you had that test too.
Yeah, we tested a lot of things. So I was like, all right, now we're gonna buff out the top so it turns.
Oh, it's a little bit more.
So it turns into, which helped with the slipping, because the girls in high heels were also slipping because we tested spilling water on it. So anyways,
and I love that. At no point were you like, I'm aborting this mission.
No, this was gung ho, because if this thing failed, like my wife would have been like, "What have you done for this wedding?"
True.
Like you've abandoned everything else.
You have buyer's remorse.
You've done nothing.
You spent all this time.
But this better work, or else. And I'm like, oh man, no, now I'm pot committed or whatever. Right. Like I was, but I got it to work.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. So, anyways, now I'm trying to make another version. Maybe I can sell it or something. I don't know. But the parts I need for it, I was like, oh my god, this 3D printer can make them.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I don't know. So maybe that'll work.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe that's a new business for you, like wedding dance floors.
Could be. I'll just shift genres, go into doing that, and I don't know.
Not a bad idea.
Some sort of club business.
Right. Yeah. Do something that can't be automated.
Yes.
That's going to be the main tech.
We're automated.
The main strategy for the future is going to be.
In front of it.
What's all the software that is required?
Well, that doesn't always go according to plan. So I hear.
I don't know. Yeah. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, how do you do that? How do you secure a future for yourself where you know that you will always be an asset and not just be totally. Not replaceable. That's the wrong word. You'll be obsolete in just like 5 years or less. Like, how do you choose a profession like that? It seems like you need to be pretty forward thinking. I think as I can't imagine what kids are having to do as far as choosing a career like that.
Oh yeah,
it was so easy growing up to just be like, well, not easy to say. I want to be a painter. I want to be an artist.
Right.
It's never been easy. I think in the history of humanity. But that's always been a stupid decision. But I think kids who were getting into tech, kids who were getting into fields where there was no question that their skill set was going to be useful for what could be their lifetime from how they perceive the world, are suddenly having to sort of restructure their entire lives. And a lot of those people have families and like grandkids, and what's going to happen as far as nepotism is concerned. if they can't, I mean, joking aside, but like, a lot of families work in sort of a generational way where they sort of usher their offspring into their profession or something. It's a pretty common story, I think. So what's going to happen for so many people who kind of have that story? It's like I paved the way for my children who now are unemployable because they don't have skills. Like that is a potential future for some people, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of like.
So it's vague, but I think that it's a problem that I'm presenting. I'm not sure what the question I'm asking is. What can we do with that? None of us really know. You just have to be forward thinking.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of like blue collar jobs are probably going to get automated and like going to be phased out. It's like it poses like a societal cost.
Of course.
Yeah,
we're being a little bit strategic about not replacing them first. They could obviously be replaced first easily. We're doing that because it's the ethical thing to do to leave those careers. I hope that's why we're doing
That
it,
is-
because
that-
that would be the best hope that I
probably
have.
cheaper,
That's
actually.
that's the altruistic way to think about it. I
Right.
think the
I should
cynical
hope
way-
it, but yeah.
Cynical way is, I think it would be like a blow to the economy too, like leave all these people unemployed, and then what does
Yeah.
that do for like your GDP? What does that do for
Yeah.
your sort of inflation? And,
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
from a company standpoint, I mean, sometimes it's cheaper to employ a person than build a robot to and pay to maintain it
Mhm.
at this point.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But
For now, yeah. Definitely.
how do you prevent? I mean, but this
Until the robots are building the robots.
Everyone keeps comparing this stuff to the Industrial Revolution,
Uh-huh.
where
Right.
of course it had the Luddites who were like and that's I mean it was reasonable and fair. Like people were being put out of work and understand what's going on, and it's the same thing that's happening now. I don't
Yeah.
understand what's going on. I don't know if anybody does.
We're probably like at a threshold or some sort of like transient period where we're either going to evolve with the way we sort of
Yeah.
approach work or jobs and stuff. You know, like you said, maybe everyone thought that industrial revolution comes along, everyone's going to have no jobs, everything's going to be automated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like technology brings a whole new set of challenges and like needs and stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what those jobs look like. Once again, the job of the futurist to sort of
But maybe
ponder.
the kids do. So back to your point, that's their
That
job.
could
The
be
kids
true.
are adaptive. They, you know what? Like they'll figure it out. Like kids
Yeah.
are really good. You know, once you get past, I don't know. For me, like 25, I'm like, I cannot take any information. This is how things are. This is, whatever. Yeah. But I think they'll adapt. And figure it out and come up with new way, and there's new roles, there's new jobs.
Yeah.
Like,
They'll save us all.
Yeah, I mean,
TikTok jobs
Kids will
for
save us
everybody,
all.
Like
Yeah.
TikTok's going to bring a new wave of
get
jobs for
on
everybody.
TikTok.
Right. Well, content creators,
And
right?
get some followers.
That's people. The less people work, the more they're going to need to be pacified. so it's in other ways. So entertainment is one of the biggest ones for pacifying people, I think. And that sounds cynical, but I mean, it seems like that's the harsh truth. And I think that we already see how that humanity reacts to an endless, bottomless supply of like low reward dopamine hits, low level dopamine hits, low investment, free dopamine for the rest of your life, where it clouds your judgment, it clouds your desire to even achieve greater things for yourself, clouds your desire to set goals for yourself. It's clear that we have this sort of evidence through social media and through the way the internet is developed. We have this sort of, these studies are obvious, they're everywhere. We know that this is happening. So when the main way to spend our time is through distracting ourselves from the fact that we have no purpose, we won't just have people who are staying home sick from work or whatever, watching daytime television. Everyone will be watching daytime television. That's like the eventuality here, I think, is that content and media creation of content is going to be the main thing that people are sort of focusing all their efforts on. So the easiest and best ways to sort of streamline new content and content creation and new content creators, and to incentivize that for people through platforms like YouTube and platforms like all these other platforms that can pay people for watching videos and for watching ads and things like that. It's like the people are kind of the machine's wheels. They're the cogs in the machine, in that they're keeping it oiled with their attention. We already have evidence that that's the consequence, or that's the result of what has happened with technological advancement and social media and things. They're advertising platforms at this point, and our attention is the product. We're not customers. The advertisers are customers.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So
with
like
data
that's
too.
yeah. So how is that going to stop? I mean, it's not going to suddenly be like a U-turn in history. We're just going to continue to ride that probably. How we can do it in a way that will benefit humanity is like beyond my understanding, but I can imagine that's something to plan for. To be a creative person, to try to activate your creative potential and spirit, to make life more livable for other people. That's like the best case scenario. What the unemployable sort of new theorized class is gonna have to do.
I mean, like in with all this like short form content, you know, a lot of it's like mindless and kind of dumb. You know, like I don't partake necessarily into like TikTok or anything, but I'm like the internet obviously has like accelerated this like drive and this need for, you know, scrolling through videos, short content. Like people's attention spans are so small. That's why like you know, cinema, like theaters are dying. You know, like people don't necessarily care for like long movies sometimes.
God,
like the younger
boring.
generation. Yeah, it's like I mean, you can't sit to 2 hours. So, like, YouTube videos like 15 minutes. People are like, oh, skip.
That's it. Yeah,
it's brought everybody back down, or brought everybody to where I'm at, which is where I started out. Like, I can't. I walked out of Lion King as a child. I was like,
oh, you're the OG.
I was like, this is super boring. I am out.
Yeah, okay, well, that's you're.
So I'm like, thank you for bringing everybody to where I'm at.
Good.
Jeez.
That's not bad.
That's cool.
Lowering the mean, is that what it's called?
You said something earlier about distracting people from. I don't remember exactly what you said. Distracting people from having a lack of purpose. But are you implying that people
unethical.
already? Sorry,
I'm interrupting. Am I implying what?
Oh, you said that you were distracting, or the new thing that's happening is going to have a problem distracting people from meaningful. Yeah, from meaningful. I think maybe is what it was. And so that sounds like you're implying that previous work, like anything that people were doing and going to a job 9 to 5, that had the goal of distracting, maybe not the goal, but the result, the substance or result of distracting people from. And I think you're implying that people need a distraction because their life is meaningless. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I forget the name of the book.
I don't mean to push too far.
No. I forget the name of the book, and this is all like my opinion. I have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. I forget the name of the book. Somebody came on the show recently who was talking a bit about this sort of this idea that we need to distract ourselves from the idea that we're going to die. Like if we're always sort of in this mental state where we know we're going to die, we're going to have this dread, and we're going to become nihilists, and we're just going to become like hedonistic and just, you know, across the board that we're going to be that way. So we have these sorts of chemical responses and these sorts of habits that we've sometimes consciously, other times unconsciously put into place to keep ourselves alive and to keep ourselves striving, so that we don't just sort of lay down and just give up. And, you know, the more people who are doing that, the less that it's going to be a civilization. Anyhow, I don't know the full idea, so this is all just my kind of trying to grasp the concept. Sure. But that's what I'm talking about as far as purpose is concerned. Is in relation to the fact that existential problem that, you know, we're going to die. So it's like, how do you forget about that by living? And what do you live for, if not for simply the pursuit of pleasure, but the pursuit of purpose and contribution to the greater picture or the greater whole?
That's a tough question.
And there's like there's a need for me to fill space when I lose train of thought by doing things like saying
No worries.
Does anybody want to expand on this? Is like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think with like your question about like sort of content creation, you know, yeah, you could be like one more in the pool of just like meaningless sort of like, let's say YouTuber content just for the sakes of putting stuff out there. You know, there's like so many channels that are just like bland and like they don't contribute at all. But if you're doing stuff there's nothing wrong with like, let's say having like a channel like this, for example, where you're like trying to get some, bigger truths, or like you feel like it's something that's like, worthwhile. Yeah.
Hopefully.
And I'm like, it's not like, you're not doing it for like the monetization, you're not doing it for the views, for the cloud, whatever it is. It's literally just for like, sort of maybe growing as a person, or seeing, having people meet each other that we would have maybe never met before.
Yeah, and honestly, it's mainly to establish community and to feel like that I have some kind of a purpose, that I had pretty much given up in some ways on like, okay, I got to stop trying to please people with my art. So this is a big, basically, fuck you, thank you.
Because you're just doing it for yourself.
Thank you and fuck you. Like, it's like that's like, stay out of my way. I chose to devote my life to this, and this is the way that this needs to go. Otherwise, what I bring to the table is not offering any value.
Were there people getting in your way?
This profession kind of breeds that, I mean, the marketplace demands that an artist establish a kind of identity, and an identity doesn't do much to help you along with securing a deeper understanding of like what it is you're making and contributing, unless it does. I mean, this isn't an absolute. So for me, I find that what I could do as a painter was becoming limited when my sole purpose became to let other people run their ideas through my head and use me as a filter. So the commission artist is a difficult path if it's the only thing you're doing. If you stop doing the independent personal work, and you're a commission artist and you solely do commissions, that becomes a difficult pursuit, because it's the thing that your heart is invested in, and you're neglecting everything that's the most important to you so that you can pay your rent. And then
sounds like being a software developer.
I mean, I sound a little entitled when I talk about this.
No, but I'm like the creative.
It sounds entitled. I know.
You got it.
No, like I would imagine that if you're doing commission work, only like your creative instincts are sort of hindered, because you're like, sort of organic ideas are not even coming to you because they're like populated by somebody else.
Because you went after this for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sure.
I mean,
how sad do we want to get? I think, I went after this for the reason that a lot of people go after the careers they do, because it got them the attention they needed. And a lot of musicians say, I started playing music so I could get girls and so I could date girls. And you hear that all the time in podcast interviews with musicians, and so many famous musicians say that same thing. So it's like people do the things they need to do in order to secure the love they need. So that's where the temperament was built. That's where the sort of idea of how this needs to sort of elevate to the next level came into play, of like this low level of validation from immediate interactions, like family members or close friends who congratulate you whether you win or fail. That needs to be elevated to the next level of peers who know more than you, who recognize your talents. And it's like, okay, that's this sort of way to grow. That's how that process happened for me.
It's a good way to look at it, for sure. I mean, more so than, something that, sort of bridged the AI conversation with the art is like, what do you make of like those sort of engines that are creating art, just based on like keywords?
I think I'm not going to be out of a job, but a lot of others are.
It's OpenAI, and there's a guy who. Oh, sorry, you were asking me a question.
No,
that was my short answer.
No, I didn't necessarily think you're going to be replaced. I just think it's, I guess, from like both an aesthetic point, but also from like a practical point. Like, what do you, I guess both of you, like, what do you make of it? So, because I'm like, engineering wise, like, I don't even know how you build a framework for that. Is it just a bunch of like populating like the sort of algorithm with like thousands of images that already existed on the internet, and then sort of like how do you give this AI like a creative sort of input as well, or let it sort of do its thing? Like, does it have a creative element to it? Is it just because I've seen some of those images and I'm like, for the most part they look kind of funky. Like they're not quite, it's not quite art per se, but I'm like, is it just a matter of like taking, you know, like years in the making of like fine tuning to a point where like it can actually make like, let's say like gallery quality or something like that?
I mean, I don't think that's.
I have an idea on that, so I'll answer when you are finished.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's necessarily the way that. So, it's the way it's structured is it builds in, or it absorbs the ones that they're using right now has been essentially scanning the internet, I should say, taking in data.
Okay.
That data is that data is put into a structure, and then it's analyzed at certain statistical capacities. Statistics isn't even the right word, essentially. And then, so when maybe I don't fully understand your question, or I'm trying to misexplain it, but what was your question exactly?
Just like, what do you make of it? Like, is it just like a fun thing that we're sort of like experimenting with, or is there some sort of like actual intention, or is it, you know? Yeah.
So so you have to define what creative is, I guess, is part of the problem. Now, if you look at, for example, neuroscience, where does creativity come from? Which part of the brain? How does that occur?
Sure.
We don't know really. I mean, if you take psilocybin or something like that, what it does is it screws with your pathways that go. So if you look at vision, for example, you got your vision center back in the back of your head. It'll screw with the different ways that. I don't want to say too specifically because I'm not going to remember my science correctly, but essentially it mitigates or changes the different ways that certain pathways are connected and allows connections that are typically not allowed to occur during that time period, or specifically interferes with the way that connections are occurring. People feel very creative when they're, for example, taking something like that. People feel creative when they're feeling emotional. People feel creative sometimes when they just draw a smiley face with spray paint on the ground. Or a kid feels creative when they just like jump in a freshly laid piece of cement. They're like, "Look, I made it!" And the constructors were like, "Seriously?" So I mean, first you got to define creative, which is a bit of a problem. Intention, though, no, I don't think there's intention anywhere behind this. The intention is behind the people that built it, and even though they don't necessarily know what they're building, because the people. So, for example, OpenAI and ChatGPT, they
what's the name of that?
ChatGPT.
Okay,
that's the thing that's writing software now.
Okay.
And it can write languages. So they trained it in English, and it was able to speak in Japanese. And I'm not kidding.
That's great.
Like there was an interview with a I forgot who it was, one of the guys.
It just taught itself, or
it figured it out. It figured it out. So what? Those are two. They're not even related on the language chart. Until you go.
Right. They're not even the same.
They're not even the same. No, they're like.
Branches of languages.
I don't even know. I don't know my language branches entirely, but they're definitely not. It's not like a romantic language.
No.
It's not like French and Spanish.
Right.
Oh, one figured it. No. What? So I don't know. Tensions may be different.
Yeah, I don't know who exactly like funds those like
Google.
But yeah, once again, it's like I'm like, what is the sort of intention? Is it just, or like, what is the byproduct of that?
Endless consumption.
Well, yeah, because it funds
endless consumption of.
It's back to your ads.
Yeah.
Ads. Ads is what built Google. Google was a beautiful, simple algorithm at the beginning, which was just a very, very simple program. Mathematical equation. Not even math equation. Just said, hey, the more links you get, the more things this links to, the more we should give it a higher rank. They call it page rank. And that is what and there's a paper on it. It's 2 pages long. I read it like 19 times. Didn't change my ability to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
But like somehow that's what shifted the entire economy. And
But is the art, like the AI generated art, like is that thing like full of ads as well? Like is
I actually haven't used it.
Okay. So
Yeah, I haven't tried
used
any
it.
of
I
that.
have a friend that used it,
Uh-huh.
and then there was some guy that used it. He made a book for his kids, right? I think, if I recall this correctly, he made a book for his kids, and it was very popular. Like I made a book for by accident, whatever. But I was making a book for, about little slugs. I was like taking pictures of slugs. I was like, ooh, slug book. This is fun. He made a book for his kids with this like AI generated content about some, I don't know, fuzzy bear that was like saying hello to people. I don't remember what the content was.
Right.
And then his family liked it. So he published it, on the Amazon so his friends could buy it.
Yeah.
And then people
blew
started
up.
it blew up and people started freaking out all over Twitter or whatever. They're just like, what are you doing? You're misappropriating art. You're ruining art. Like, this is inappropriate. He's like, dude, what is this? And people got very upset. And angry
They were
about
upset
this.
that he misused the AI generated content.
They were
or-
upset. They're like, look at that hand. It doesn't twist right.
Oh,
Like,
I see.
and they're like, you should not be publishing this on the internet. You should hire an artist to do this. And a whole bunch of people got really angry about it. And I don't know. I have to side with him on this. Like, he didn't intentionally try to displace anybody.
No, and I think those are sort
Yeah.
of like the caveats of that AI generated art. It's not perfect. It's literally like a work in progress.
Yeah.
I just find it funny that people are upset about the aesthetic quality
I think that
more so than him monetizing like
Yeah.
AI generated work that's basically free.
if they really want this to be successful, they're going to need masters of these crafts to teach it.
I find tune it.
They're going to need to understand what makes people creative. Largely, it's something like chaos and what we say, like you said, depression or like some life event might inspire someone to be creative. That's going to be the case. Past trauma, it's not exactly impossible to replicate. It's just this sort of, if you really want to educate it like a person, you have to traumatize these machines like a person is traumatized.
I love the traumatized machines is a great band.
That doesn't just mean like drop it on the floor or
Yeah, like-
anything. Like I just mean like you're gonna have to scare it or something. Like if you really want like to activate that sort of
I love that
chaotic
idea.
seeming magic of the artistic creative process, you're gonna need to somehow replicate it by doing something like that. It can't be just sort of, this looks like this thing, this looks like this thing, and you have scientists programming this thing where artists should be programming it.
So
And I think that's like then you have a completely different thought process to the problem.
Yeah.
So when that gets introduced to it, which is inevitable, then you'll have that gap that's been bridged, and that's an eventuality. I know it looks weird right now, but it won't forever.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at too. Is
Yeah.
like because I would imagine that when it first started, it was like even worse than it is now. But it's like there's some images that I've seen where you're like, oh, this is actually quite good. Like it's passable, maybe like it's still like a stock photo that lives on a frame and like at like Marshalls. But at least it doesn't look like something random, like.
Right.
But there's another side to it because it empowers people to be. I mean, we saw this. Like maybe we thought this about Twitter and Facebook, and it turned into a freaking nightmare, echo chamber of awfulness. But I mean, it lets people who don't have the ability, who haven't taken however many years to practice,
Right.
to at least express themselves.
Okay.
And so there's that side too. I was terrified of
nice.
this idea.
That is
when
nice.
Yeah, I mean, like
From
maybe,
a preschool level worldview.
Well, okay, fine.
I think not insulting you, but I mean like it affects so many lives so dramatically that that's like the preschool teacher saying everybody is creative and all art has the same value.
No, but I backed out of that by saying the thing.
Yeah, I don't think you're saying that.
I'm not saying that.
I'm
saying
taking
that
it
as-
in a different direction. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
But I'm like, I can also see how, like, let's say, I can't paint,
No
for
why.
example.
Sorry to hijack like that.
No, it's fine. I wasn't implying that was the correct idea. That's why I said the Twitter thing first, because I was going to do it. Still not a good idea, But anyways, sorry.
No, if anything, I felt like I cut you off. Was that like the intent? Like that was
No, go ahead.
the full thought? No, I'm like, I can't paint, but I'm like, I'm not necessarily going to resort to like, typing in words to generate art, but I'm like, it's not far-fetched. I think that maybe somebody out there is, let's say, trying to be creative and maybe get some sort of inspiration or something, and they're like, well, at least I know what I maybe would want in a painting, and so like they just go in and type it in and they see what kind of examples. I don't know if that would maybe like trigger like a creative element or like something, for them, but it's like, I don't know, like it's not a one and done solution, obviously, to being a painter or whatever. But I'm like, I can see how it could be like somewhat of like a productivity tool at least.
Yeah, at its best.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily going to create like world class art.
There have been some users of heroin who also made great art while they were on heroin.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't catch the connection there. Hold on.
I think that the use of the tool, using a tool to achieve a means,
or some sort of
using a tool as a means to an end of creating art, like that is possible, and that's sure going to happen in the best case scenario. A lot of times it's going to destroy lives. A lot of times it's going to. I don't know where I'm going with this outside of like the poetic sort of side of it, but I think that maybe there's a potential to do great things. There's a potential to use it in a way that is still ethical, like you're saying, that is as a device to help someone get to a creative idea or a creative place. Most times that's going to be the exception to the rule, I would guess.
Well, here's an interesting in between. I saw a video recently of an automated giant robot arm with different types of tools at the end, a bunch of water sprays, to make a statue. Basically, to chisel a statue.
Yeah.
Now cool. The artist designed the statue, put it into like some sort of, I don't know, CAD program. The machine, I don't know exactly how it worked. Maybe one in the future could help them figure out, like an augmentation. Maybe is what I'm trying to get at. Maybe like somebody's extra bionic arm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, hey, look, now I can reach, like Stretch Armstrong.
For prosthetics and stuff.
Yeah, now cool. Look, I can reach to the top of the building instead of getting on ladders to paint my giant mural. I don't know, like just maybe there's, instead of it having to be like a takeover system, just like everything else, like bulldozers did not replace people who are doing construction work at all. Well, there's tons of construction people, all like construction workers all over the place.
Like manning the
machines. Yeah. So it's just sort of just changed the level where now they have better tools. And that's really what I think is what I was trying to get at, what I think is going to happen. It's just eventually going to become, people are freaking out, but I think it's going to become this whole thing, once it settles down, is going to become a new set of tools that this new generation of people is going to know how to use. Well, the old people are like, I don't know about that.
Sure, yeah.
You should use your old hammer.
Hopefully those old people made themselves a fortune, otherwise they're not going to be too happy for a very long time. Yeah.
That's my thought of where it's going to go.
Yeah, there's, I can remember, like I was watching a video too of like similarly where an industry where they had developed a lot of technology to sort of expedite their process, but then they were mentioning how like they still had to maintain like a good chunk of like human workforce in order to quality check all that work. And so then you're starting to think, you're like, well, what if you just employ them to do it to begin with? And but I think that's what people, we're trying to figure out right now. It's like, how much do we want to automate? How much of it's like actually worthwhile and like quality work? And then like, how much human element is still like sort of factored into all of this?
Right.
I think like different industries will have different sort of like ratios, but like the grocery store worker, like, you go to some of these stores are like fully automated. Like I feel like that's probably going to be phased out.
I know. I didn't ever agree to get a job at a grocery store.
Thank you. I hate that.
But I do use it when it's a quicker line. It's just
absolutely.
I didn't volunteer for that. Right. I didn't see my price of my groceries affected in any way.
Right. But You know, like the artists, for example, like I can't imagine that painters will be, you know, usurped by technology.
No way.
Like in film, we're always talking about like, you know, camera people, like DPs, you know, director of photography, like will they be outsourced? Will a machine be able to edit like documentaries in the future? I don't know. Hopefully not. I mean, I think it's so far ahead of us that necessarily my job won't be jeopardized, but it's something that, you know, like how your phone now, like your iPhone, like will make edited videos of your memories and shit.
No, I don't.
You have
sorry, I'm on Android.
Android.
I don't know.
I didn't hear very much on Android.
Green tech, sorry.
Yeah, well, like your iPhone will like edit videos for you now, like without you doing anything, and it's like, yeah, it's terrible because it's essentially just a slideshow, but it's like kind of you start to get the idea of like in the future will content be edited just by machines, or can machines learn how to edit content?
It works. It pulls the heartstrings, right?
What does it?
It pulls the heartstrings.
You know,
those little slideshows.
Oh yeah.
They function.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just a curiosity of like how good can it get. I mean, maybe in like films where everything, you know, I've had this discussion with a few people. Like at least like my understanding of like Hollywood and stuff. It's like there's specific scenes, there's specific setups. Like everything's very much controlled. Like how you know different things are pieced together. I'm not saying that the editor necessarily has no job in piecing these things together. There's obviously a creative element, but like, is that something that maybe in the future, like you just tell the machine, like, hey, this scene has been shot with this many angles. Like we're trying to make it this long. Can you just edit it to be at this, you know, this particular length? Definitely. And like, can a machine do a good job of putting a scene together? You know, like that I can see maybe how it would be automated, and like feature film Hollywood editors might be phased out. But with documentary, for example, it's so random. Like when you follow people with the regular lives, like you have sometimes one shot to just, you know.
Because I think your two words that you said earlier, intention. Is it intention and oh shoot, I just lost it. Thank you. Creativity are important to know, because intention. So I don't think, no matter how many statistics, because this is really, I mean, you could argue that we're statistics too somehow, but whatever. That's a whole different philosophical argument.
I hope we get there.
Intention and creativity, like how everything. I mean, we learn from our world around us. So you could argue that, you know, all we have is everything we've got to intake, and then, but how do we produce new output? Well, these things can do that too. Do they have? But maybe the mix of the two, because I don't know if those have intention. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably getting them. Yeah.
But so maybe intention, creativity, and some other factor that we still haven't figured out yet. There's still this huge divide about consciousness, right? Which gets into this. I mean, really digging into that. How does that work? Where does it come from? I mean, there's the mind-body problem, which is ages old. Like, it's just it's an old philosophical argument, which no one has figured out. No one knows how to approach. I mean,
the consciousness one's a good point, because, you know, like, whether it's, you know, film or whether it's painting, like, I feel like the artist's consciousness has a big role in, like, you know, let's say how much emotion is getting put into a painting, or how much, you know, how dry something can be. If the machine has none of that, sort of like, how would it? I don't know. I guess it would just
feed it
like my drawings.
Sorry.
Like my drawings. My drawings. I'm like, this does not seem to convey much of anything except for.
What is that called? The DSM.
DSM, the Diagnostics Manual. That we talking about?
Of mental disorders.
Yeah. DSM is up to tier 5.
Just feed it that. Just give it some of that.
Oh yeah.
Just feed it
that
data. Feed it that what?
Don't read one of those. So I read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a dork.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't even follow.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
What is this?
Diagnostic Manual of Mental Whiskey.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's functioning. It's good.
Diagnostic Manual of DSM. Diagnostic.
I know. I brought it up and I can't even say it. Sorry.
TSR, forward revision, whatever. So it basically it's the standardized
you read
go-to for anybody who's doing things in psychology, mental health, and it has a whole listing of things about what is or is not a disorder.
Right. Most artists are narcissists.
Bipolar, narcissist.
I would venture to say
whatever.
Most artists who I meet
Alcoholism.
have more narcissistic traits than non-artists who I meet. Most I could say who I've met have more of those traits. I don't know what their diagnosis is, but they're doing this thing where they're seeking ego fulfillment at like the deepest level you could imagine.
All right. I've seen that with actors.
I'm exaggerating for emphasis, but I think that that's going to be a big part of the creative sort of impulse is like the dysfunction, I guess, of the creators is what's made art so.
I like what you're doing here. This is an interesting concept.
It's made art throughout history just kind of develop in a way. Now we know how to sort of highlight and call out people who are like narcissistic abusers or womanizers or whatever, and it's like that's where all these creative ideas and societal moments in art history, these upheavals came from, is from these people who were sort of going against the grain. So imbue the machines with that, it's like psychopathy, and then you'll get some real good art. Like I think then we'll start to get to a place where we couldn't possibly compete with it. I think that's what's missing. They're still approaching the art from a clinical standpoint, or from they're so clean with it that everything is just this sort of. They're not getting to the grit of what made us. That's the side that's missing.
The good part, the good
it's
parts
typically
of
the bad people who make the movements in art history. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a fun period to see.
Sense.
Just make sure that it can't tweet. If you give it that ability, you'll start to get like these like super megalomaniac like AI artists.
I mean, some of like Donald Trump's tweets already sound like fucking crazy as computer generated, including
let a computer loose on the internet just to talk back to him.
See
how that goes. It's like having an argument back and forth over Twitter. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, let's just make like an AI account, Twitter account that's like a Democrat Republican that just literally all it does is trolls Donald Trump all day.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody already tried.
Yeah.
Republicrat is what it will be named.
Anything to like expedite his dementia and ultimate demise. But yeah, that was interesting sort of conversation about art and AI. I've been seeing a lot of that pop up recently in like sort of like Vox videos and sort of reviewers of like a lot of stuff that's like sometimes they generate these like crazy AI art things that go into memes. They're like, just the more you look at it, the more you see like inconsistencies, people with the 3 arms. Like I just saw one today with I thought it was like a real image of like these teens eating like fast food at a restaurant, but then there was like a 3rd arm. There was a straw coming out of like a cheeseburger. There's like all kinds of weird shit. So they're like, the more you look at it, the more you see how like weird it is. It's not like quite there.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is like on first glance, you're like, oh yeah, this is just a regular image, and then you sort of like dive into like the weird intricacies of it.
Yeah.
Well, we're about an hour in, so if we're gonna take that break, it should be right about now.
Sure.
Seems like a good time.
Coffee,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun talk so far. Let's see if we can make it less fun on the second half.
All right, we'll work on it. Let's bring it down a little bit somehow. No particular goal here?
There's no real goal here except just to put a piece of your whatever it is that convinces you to choose an object onto the mantle. And that will stay here for the entire season, and they will be added to every painting.
Not this shelf, because I was going to put that
there. Then it might move if you put it up there.
That might be this guy.
It was in there.
Okay, cool.
The top doesn't come off?
No, that's where I keep my soul. Oh, Jesus, it's gone.
Alright, it's going up there.
I like this duck. It's a mallard, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
I used to have one of these
Wise choice. Wise choice.
in my, it was my favorite stuffed animal
Yeah,
as a kid, yeah.
the mallard.
Yeah, it was a mallard duck. I wouldn't let it go. There we go.
Look at that. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Cool. Perfect.
Here we are, contributing and painting everybody every time, without fail.
I love it.
No, the chocolate was really good.
This name of the new segment of the show is called Chocolate Tears. So it's in.
we make the guests cry with chocolate.
That's right. Sometimes
sounds mean.
because they enjoy it so much, sometimes because we're berating them with insults.
No, you gotta take the good with the bad.
Yeah. All right. So we took a little break to eat some dark chocolate and crystallized ginger bits inside of this chocolate. It's quite good. It seems like a guest favorite so far.
Really good.
Delicious.
Maybe a staple, perhaps. So we were talking a little bit about constructive criticism during the break, and I realized that I have few people around me who offer constructive criticism. I think largely I could say personally that would be because I've made such an effort to surround myself in my 20s with pleasure-seeking friendships and not professional friendships or friendships based on sort of deeper understanding or respect of someone's craft at something or something like that. Like there are like levels of friendship. One is not more valuable than the others, except one is the least valuable of them. That would be the pleasure seeking, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
You have friendships based on utility that are kind of another one that is like a coworker or something, you know, or like that's the anyhow, that's the thought train that I go on when I think of constructive criticism coming from people. So usually people who don't want to challenge the terms of the friendship or the relationship as pleasure-seeking friends are the ones who you're going to only see when you're out in a bar that you frequent or some club event or something like that. And you know, you'll never hear real criticism from a person like that. So I think the constructive criticism is a rare treat in life. And we should look for more people who do that, who offer it.
I mean, yeah, I work, you know, obviously in the creative field as well, so I can see how that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
I disagree 100%, but
I mean, you disagree?
I disagree a lot, yeah.
That's funny.
With that statement or with
his first statement, not the last. The last one was we should seek more of that. I agree with that.
Huh?
We should all be seeking that. I disagree with the hierarchy that you listed, and also that you're only going to find people that do that tend to be not close to you.
Okay.
Because I misinterpreted what you said.
Yeah, okay. Not only, not always. That's true.
But I think you should especially find that with people who are close to you.
Yep.
Because that's
If
part of
that-
the point of being close with somebody.
Yep.
I don't know if this is, you have a little chocolate here. I don't know if
sorry.
you want to be
Is it here?
a little more.
Does I? We're here?
Yeah, there you go.
Did I get it?
I'm like, I don't think
All
the
right.
camera would have gotten it, but I'm like, I don't know if you want
No,
to.
you don't have
to.
to.
The whole,
Yeah,
No, it's nice.
the close
You know,
up.
I hate when I
The
go-
close up switch to you in the second
Everybody-
half anyway. So that's it.
Everybody goes to parties, you know, and no one freaking tells
Oh,
you.
I love telling people.
And just please tell me. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's
There it
too
is.
embarrassed to do it.
See?
It's like, go ahead.
See?
Oh, yeah.
So
Like,
you've
that's
just
constructive.
you've just
That's
met.
that's a very low level
You've-
of effort constructive
It's true.
criticism.
It's true. So you've just only met, and you're willing to offer that kind of advice.
Oh, I do it to
So-
everybody.
so-
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I do the same, and that's a good
And
thing.
you should.
So that's a good quality.
I'm like, I wonder why people are embarrassed to like bring it up to someone when they're clearly all they're doing is helping them, because you don't want to be the person
Well,
with the spinach. And the
why are-
teeth.
Oh, because they're smiling, and because if they stop smiling to be self-conscious, then
Some people.
I'll be the one who caused them to stop smiling. It's a really selfish thing.
No,
Yeah,
it is.
it is.
Some people, the reason is some people don't react very well. Because I also do this.
That's true. I've
And
met
some
those.
people
Okay.
get
Fair
upset
enough.
if you tell them. And
That's
I,
crazy.
I know. I don't understand why,
Right.
but I still never. I mean, I can't account for everybody's responses. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's going to be
Somebody
case by
gets mad, I'd
case.
be like, oh, well, you could have
Well,
just
that's
walked
too
around
bad.
with
You
the
know, like
stuff in your teeth.
most people. I mean, it's like the toilet paper stuck in the pants,
Sure.
which appears to only happen coming out of like, I don't know, bathroom stalls from festivals, as far as I can tell. Never seen it happen in like a house.
I saw that happen on The Breakfast Club.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
Toilet paper in the shoe?
No,
it was in the
it's
shoe,
stuck
wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, Donald Trump
It's
had
a
that.
habit.
Go to bring it back to Donald Trump. He
That's
literally
true.
had that as, I think he was going up the plane, like the
Uh-huh.
Air Force One, and he had toilet paper stuck on his shoe.
Well, that
I'm
seems like you have enough detail.
Well, see, I'm like, so
You don't want to
everyone
tell,
around him-
you don't want to
everyone
tell certain people
Yeah, see?
about their
But
faults.
if you miss that, then you what else are you missing?
That's
I don't
true.
know. Like,
I'm loving this conversation because somehow we managed to bring it back to like, to find the example of like someone literally on the public eye that
Mhm.
the people around him are not comfortable enough, or like they don't have the constructive criticism to
Sure.
tell the president, hey dude, you got toilet paper.
Well,
It's like,
there's a leader who desires to be feared, I think, rather than loved.
Yeah.
So I don't know that too much about him as a fact, but I think that would illustrate that point in a leadership position.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I think
Emblematic of his.
that would be
of
emblematic of a
yeah.
person who meets what I just described. I don't know about him honestly though, but I think that's like that's the worst kind of leader, is the tyrant. So they choose to live with their employees, their coworkers, whatever it is,
Their family members.
with
clearly.
family members, anybody, like where they exercise control in life through asserting dominance and inspiring fear in the people who are close to them. So that's like do you want to be loved or do you want to be feared, sort of like
Right.
cliches.
well, but then why is there an entire opposite side of that? Do you want to be loved? Do you want to be feared? There's a whole group of people who want the second half of that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would put myself solidly in the first half, I would think.
Sure.
But there's also a lot of people who disagree with that, which raises the question, why?
Why feared?
Well, why? I mean, there's the 50% of people currently, at least in the U.S., thinking about different ways to behave and think about things.
Mhm.
Why would that be? I mean, they can't all be. The immediate thing to do is, categorize everybody into, or dehumanize people.
Yeah,
Essentially.
exactly.
It's very easy
Yeah.
to take. That's how
Okay.
group people together, dehumanize them, focus them into 2 categories or 5, whatever you choose. Easy way to do it, right? But that's not how people are, of course.
Yeah. Agree.
I don't know. So it's difficult for me to make broad statements about an entire group of people because I don't think that is actually a group. That's just some sort of non-existent. I don't know how to describe it. It's a way to take your feelings and target something that you don't have a relationship with because it's not a thing. It's just an entity. I mean, maybe it'd be better to target like a potted plant. Just I don't know. I don't know. Like
I want you to run with that one.
I was gonna say pour poison on it, but I like trees so much. I would never do that. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I feel like there's better ways to handle your emotions than just like grouping a bunch of people together and then joining some other group that doesn't like those things and then attacking them, even though we are unsure why. I think a lot of people are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a modern structure of today's politics, unfortunately, right?
I don't think it's modern. I think it's been, like, this is the way it's been for a long time.
I mean, yeah, I guess in this country too, like 2-party system for sure. It's like everyone's kind of thrown into like
That makes it pretty
separate
easy.
buckets.
Yeah, to be
Yeah.
to volunteer your support.
Right. No, and it's funny, like you
It
look at
does.
some of
I
the,
think that's a nice. I agree with what I just said.
like
You grew it yourself? Excellent.
No, you look at other countries too, and you know, I'm from Ecuador, and so like you look at the party system there, and it's just like freaking 20 parties, you know, and you're like, how is that? How come that's not transferable here? I don't know what the answer is, but it's just like we've somehow managed to run with the 2-party system for like.
It used to be
years.
three, and I think before that it was, you know.
Yeah.
More. I don't know. My history's terrible. I'm just gonna make stuff up at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. Somebody, yeah. I don't know much about history.
I don't know much about social history. I know a little bit about art history.
All right.
That's all.
So So actually, I'm.
That was
curious.
it. That's all I know.
Yeah. So there's the Renaissance, right? So I have this book called this giant book, which I tried to read through.
Yeah.
And I did not make. I mean, I have a tendency to try to read through things you're not supposed to read through, with dictionaries and DSMs. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Bam! Now I got it.
Finally. Oh man, how's that suspense? Oh, that was good.
And
Let's call back.
Yeah, it's not a funny callback. It's just a factual callback.
Let's just edit that chunk into like it's like a rough edit, but just gets put into the first section.
Yeah. Exactly.
Editor brain. Just
come kicking in. Right? I love it.
I also this is like a little bit off course, but I was like, you know, going back to like your live editing, you're like, I'm trying to minimize on all the. This was during the break, but you know, you're like, I'm trying to cut down on all the editing, like just basically live edit, streamline the whole process, and it just got me thinking back to like the earlier question about like machine outsourcing, you know, the whole process, like.
Right.
Even though I'm not getting out, like the editor's not being phased out, I love that is one way to sort of think about it. You know,
this one right here.
Adam's done it in a micro way. He's completely cut out the editor for the show.
The Roland AV streaming mixer VR.
He's coming.
One HD.
It's coming for all the editors, basically.
Yeah. Your jobs are kaput.
Sorry. Didn't mean to digress.
I forgot
we were just talking about the DSM a little bit. We were talking about calling back.
Book.
Oh yeah, was it the dictionary? Oh, it was the art book.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I forgot the name of it. But it's Gardner's.
Yep, that's the one.
Gardner's art history of art.
Do I have it right here?
Let's see how big it is.
It's pretty fucking big.
Oh, it's that one.
That's it.
There it is.
Just gonna put this on your ground. Yeah, this is the one I was talking about. So I tried to read.
When was this published?
Before 1998, because that's when I got a hold of one. So, but this is also it says 11th edition. So
I don't know if it was one of those the only other like art history book, prominent art history book that I can recall is like Giorgio Vasari's like.
Did you get this for $6?
Sounds right.
How the?
I think probably my
I got
books.
mine.
Was it written in pencil?
It's got a sticker on it.
Oh, I might have gotten it for free actually then.
I mean, this is like a multi-$100 book.
Of course.
I think.
Yeah.
And it's got. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm
home.
gonna start from the beginning and read to the end. I'm just gonna learn about 11th edition, whatever. Sorry, about all of art in one book, and then I'll be done, and I'll know art.
Yeah.
That was my plan. This was when I was like 19 or 20 or something like that. And so I didn't really make it all the way through.
Understandable. It's very boring stuff.
What I started doing is just like bringing it out at parties and then dropping it on the table to a random page and seeing what people do, which is sort of like what you're up to here right now.
I'm liking this.
Conversation starter.
Here we go.
Yeah, just like, what do we got here?
Let's hijack their own conversation, please.
Peaches, guys, talk about peaches now.
Peaches.
I don't know.
Which one? The Teaches of Peaches?
This is Still Life with Peaches, fourth style wall painting. Italy. I don't know. It's just a random page. And then he gets into architecture.
Are we talking about peach emojis? We could talk about Peaches, the musician.
We can talk about peach emojis. You want to talk about that? Or architecture. We can talk about that too. This is the book, which I tried to read through. And I learned finally it's a reference.
Yeah.
Or a party favor. Not favor. You don't give these away.
No.
Party conversational.
Conversation starter.
Piece,
Yeah.
starter, yeah. Set that there.
but not a
Did you
podcast
hear that
conversation starter, thank God.
That was a good
Fucking
thump.
heavy. Oh, sorry. Did you want to look at it?
No, I'm good.
No.
I'm like,
No, I'm good. I don't need.
I
don't
could
need any-
spend the whole afternoon with that.
Yeah.
With that book, probably.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm curious about these cards.
Sure, you want to check
Just
them
because
out?
I'm like, I just because Elena bought some for like Thanksgiving.
What
Yeah.
other cards?
Family.
They're fun.
They're just like
I don't-
conversations.
I don't play
wow.
them like a game. They're inside of Scully there, of course.
You want to draw? You were curious about them earlier.
All right.
Dive deep into the human
Let's
consciousness.
see. I'm gonna go medium way into the consciousness level.
Then choose a blue card.
Choose a blue
Oh, yeah,
card.
he got a blue card.
Did I get a blue card?
Yeah,
Alright,
that's blue.
got a blue card. It's got 4 heads in the background that I think you're making out.
I'm not sure what that
And it
means.
says actually curious.
Oh, so it's like a polyamorous thing.
What is something you pretend to know about and why?
Something that I pretend to know about that I don't actually know about.
I don't know. It didn't say that. I just
Yeah.
said, I mean, you can add your own context, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one's implying that you don't know something
Yeah.
you don't know, but you pretend to know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, okay, sorry.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say that it might not mean that at all. It might mean that you already know it and you're pretending to know it because you're being deceitful to trick somebody.
So you
Interesting.
do know a lot
Okay.
about it, but you pretend that you don't know about
Yeah,
it.
that could be
Oh,
also
Okay.
another way to look
Well,
at
can
it.
you come up with an example of that in your history then?
You can go with your own first option.
I mean, I don't think I necessarily pretend to know stuff that I and then spew it.
No?
No, but stuff. I think. I mean, I have obviously been in the scenario where you do know something about it, but maybe you just don't want to be so overt. I can't think of an example, but
Sure.
you know.
It might compromise your professional.
No, it's
I think that in the professional world, if I have experience doing something at all, I'm likely to have more confidence to say that I do it well than I am to say that and make up for it in research before I have the need to do it.
Look, that makes sense.
Are you saying fake it to make it? Is that what I'm hearing? Or am I misunderstanding?
I think it's meet the commitment.
Meet the commitment.
Yeah.
Which is a totally valid. Look, okay, so you're never gonna know something that's a new challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So the pretend again. You know, I'm sort of I told you I read the dictionary, right? I'm obsessed with like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you're never gonna if you're really being asked. Let's say somebody asks you to do something. Let's say you're being hired to do something.
Uh-huh.
And it's never been done before. Do you actually know how to do it? No, it's never occurred before. Are you pretending to do it? Maybe. I mean, but pretending, I think, implies the fact that you're lying. Am I wrong on that?
Mm.
Maybe
Yeah.
not lying, but maybe like bending the truth a little bit. I see where you're getting at with this question. I think I can give like an example.
Yeah, here, let's make it
What did you mean when you wrote that question?
Yeah, let's reach out to the publishers. No, but you're right. Actually, in the context of what you're saying, Adam, about like work stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? I think like earlier on, like I think maybe like initially, I forgot, you know, trying to get a job or something, and they were like, oh, do you know like Photoshop? And at the time, you know, you're like, yeah, I know Photoshop, and you really don't, but you're like,
You know it enough to say it.
yeah, you're like, I know enough to maybe get around, or I'm gonna go home after this like interview or whatever, and then like literally learn up on it.
That's so common to do that. That's exactly how everyone does it.
Yeah,
People who don't do that are just not informed that that's the way that the system works.
right. In that context, yes, I guess.
Yeah.
But then also you're making a guarantee, which is different. So you're setting a goal, you're making a guarantee, and you're saying, I'm going to achieve that,
Yeah.
and I promise.
Yeah.
So this actually now is tied to promise in my mind, which is if you're pretending and you promise something, then maybe it's not pretending at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that dissolutes my opinion, so now I just countered myself in my argument.
We'll take it. I will say that was a successful card.
Yeah, no, I got
That was
me
a
thinking,
successful
yeah.
card pull.
'Cause-
Maybe the most interesting of the answers yet on this show in all the times that card has come up.
Oh, it has come up before.
Oh, often. Somehow these ones always find their way to the top.
Huh.
I don't fix the deck. I also do shuffle it.
Well, I also picked randomly.
Yeah, and I shuffled it before too. So
Yeah.
So
somehow
it just showed up. Maybe there's like a bunch of them in there and you haven't checked recently.
I have not checked
Did you like
recently.
shuffle a bunch of decks together or somebody stole some?
I would like to have a bunch of decks, and I would actually like to create my own deck for the show. So any listeners watching still at this point after the 15-minute mark, maybe 8 minutes in, would be a better assumption.
to help. Yeah, that's
So
nice.
you go ahead and send any questions that you have into Painting Everybody at our email. Go paint yourself.
Go paint yourself.
That's. I wish that were the email.
But like, what you're saying, yeah,
But-
you're like maybe with pretending, it's like
Mhm.
your question was like, I'm sort of implying that I'm lying or something,
Mm.
you know. But yeah, it's like technically, like if you say, oh, I know this skill set, and maybe you don't possess it all the way, but you're like you're making that promise. You're like, I'm gonna go home and like sharpen up on it, and make sure. And then at a certain point, like, you know, if you like do your job and like you sort of learn it, you're no longer lying about it.
Yeah.
You know, you like if you deliver, then it's like you're good. But you just have that little period of time where it's
There's
like
time where it's like
yeah,
the risk. That's risk,
right.
right? But wait. So the other way you're looking at it is to. I think maybe that you're implying is to say that you actually just, or like you're at a party.
Exactly.
And
That's
and
what
people are talking about art history in my case.
You're like, yeah, I know
And
this
they're
stuff.
like, oh, you remember so from the something period era? And I'm like, yeah, totally.
Right.
that's
So
what
that's where I was going.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I don't particularly partake in that sort of.
You don't do that?
No,
You
not
never do it?
necessarily.
People, what was that talk show, or not talk show, maybe late night thing where they asked people if they knew about something that they didn't actually know about. Let's say it was
Oh,
Jay
yeah, like-
Leno. Was it him? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think jaywalking, like that was a segment.
Yeah,
They'd be
yeah.
like, oh, what do you think of like, you know, like it was like 2014. They're like, oh, what do you think about like this week, you know, like that we landed the man on the moon again. And people are like, oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
yeah, like, can you tell us a little bit more about
Or they'll ask people who went to Coachella and music festivals if they know a band that doesn't exist and
Right,
things like
right,
that,
right.
and they always say
Yeah.
yes, they do.
Oof.
Well, like when you were saying like the acronym right now with the mental health list, I was like, I don't know what that's. So I'm not just gonna
Right.
pretend like
No. You actually, people do, this happens at parties a lot.
Uh-huh.
And there's so I have a very bad poor ability. English is difficult.
Yeah, that's, you're getting so good at it.
You know, I'm not very good at that situation where I keep reading people's names.
Pedro. Yeah.
Pedro.
It's
Was I kidding? Now?
It's because
So
it's because you've read so many words in the dictionary. You have so many.
it's so many.
the
That's
lexicon
So I
is
have, so
long.
you know,
There's only so
so
much
I
space.
have a bunch of tricks to get around it instead of lying to somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would be
This is my
pretending,
friend. Have you
right?
met? So
Well, yeah. So you do that.
Yeah,
That's one of the tricks.
Sometimes, you know, earlier I would just be like, yeah, of course I know this person, and then it's not. So now, but sometimes I just, getting older, I just call it out a little bit more,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, hey, remember me? I'm like, no.
Oh, it's lovely. When
I'm
someone
sorry, I
doesn't-
don't remember
someone admits
you,
that
and-
it's difficult.
It's difficult. It's a little challenging.
It's hard for me to
harder
do that.
when you're surrounded by people. It's easier when you're on the street.
Mm,
And people approach you and they're like, "Hey, do you remember me?" I'm like, "No."
I don't. Sorry.
I think what was the scene? Oh, there was Groundhog's Day
Mhm.
where he meets the guy who was the
Mhm.
insurance
The
agent.
first steps of
Oh, yeah.
Daisy.
Sales guy. He's like, "Hey, remember me?" He's
Ned
like,
Ryerson.
Ned Ryerson. It took him like 15 tries
Right.
to remember
Mm.
Ned Ryerson's name. I think I could be wrong. I don't know. I've only seen the movie 15 times.
I just saw that scene on TV recently, so
Yeah?
that's the only reason I remember it.
Funny.
Yeah.
But you know, something about this question too that I guess goes like something. I'm trying to think of an example, but I'm like I said, I don't partake. But there's an instance like when you're talking to someone, let's say usually at a party, and
Mhm.
like you didn't hear what they said, and I've done it where I'm like, Yeah, you just nod and you're like, you pretend that
Sure.
you heard it.
Yeah.
And that one is like one of those times where I'm like,
Sometimes
somehow-
it bites you.
yeah, it's not worth. I'm like, it's either not worth going back in and be like, huh, or you're just like, it's inconsequential. Like it's just in pass. It was a comment in passing, and there's no risk of like having missed out on it.
Yeah.
That's when I pretend.
It's gone badly sometimes for me though.
Because then there's a follow up question.
Well, because there'll be something of like a pop quiz in the conversation. They'll be like, God damn it.
Gotta learn how to pivot real fast.
Yeah,
Gotta be sharp.
yeah.
You know.
Gotta deflect.
Deflect. Yeah. Respond.
Yeah,
what's your name,
Those
sir?
live pop quizzes are real difficult to pass.
Yeah. I think we wore that card out.
Yeah, I would say you could
that.
tear it up on camera if you'd like you to.
I don't feel the need to tear it up.
Let's see what other folks
Do you not want another version of this?
No, I don't. I didn't want the first one, but I'm happy that it arrived.
No, I mean you don't want this card anymore. I'm not gonna tear this card out. That seems rude.
Oh no, I'm half joking, and I would have welcomed it if you went through with it.
Yeah, I don't feel that violent.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna start doing things like that on the show, though.
Yeah,
because those cards have brought me a lot of frustration at points.
you could also just get.
I've discarded a bunch from that deck because they're so.
You could just give these cards to someone else and have new cards.
That's true.
Or you can get like what is it? Like a bunch of Cards Against Humanity and let people.
Yeah.
See, that's dangerous
Fill
stuff
out.
because somebody's gonna get in trouble.
Are they though?
Well,
Sometimes,
people tend to go a little more racist than they are in those cards because they're designed to be that way.
These cards are designed.
Not these.
No,
Cards Against Humanity are
Oh.
designed to be that
I
way,
see.
and they're like, oh,
It's
we're
like,
gonna
this is
ride
not
the
something
edge.
like raises.
We're gonna be like,
This is
we're gonna put drunk people in precarious positions.
All right.
Yeah,
Precarious social positions where they're gonna make the wrong decisions, and their friends will hopefully not hold it
tend to
against them.
lean on like being heinous.
Yeah, they do.
I like that you singled out races. I didn't think about it that way.
Oh, they're often that.
I
Yeah,
don't
from
play
what
the
I
game very
found.
often, but I'm like, it's always like poop.
It's been years since I've played it.
Yeah,
farts.
yeah.
fart
There's a lot of
jokes.
that kind of stuff.
It has been years since I played it, but it is. I found there was a lot of race related stuff that you could easily do, and they would.
I think they bought
That
it.
was a very nihilistic approach to making a card game like that.
Didn't they? Well, I think they ended up buying like a baseball stadium.
They
The
had.
company?
Yeah.
That sounds right. They have the gallery that was located on Ashland and Armitage, pretty much. It's like right there, Clybourne and Ashland.
is that?
By the metro train station. They have a gallery, or they had a gallery. I'm not sure that it's still there, but
Were they Chicago based, like the company originally?
it might have been actually.
Can I do another one of these?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
This is
Let's
kind
do
of
it.
fun now.
Let's do it.
I like
it is
this.
fun.
Let's get another one. I mean, you said they were for like when conversations were boring, but
Not only
fuck,
yeah.
I mean, fuck that.
Yeah.
It's your turn to pick.
I'll do the green one on top.
games are
Yeah.
fun. It's good.
Name one thing that makes you nervous or uncomfortable and explain why. I mean, certainly we don't have to.
It sounds like
You don't have to answer every question.
Let me pick another
You
one.
can
That sounds
you can also look closely through them, and be like, oh, I like this one.
No, you're up again. That one was a flop.
You're the
Well,
boss.
Or do you want to stick with
No,
it?
I'll stick with it just
All right,
because I find that people find this one interesting.
All
But
right, say it again.
it's not embarrassing or anything like
Did
that.
I put this on backwards? No, I just don't know that.
What was the question once more? What you're afraid of?
Yeah. There you go.
Was that the question? What you're afraid of? Is that what it was?
So I'm a mechanical engineer.
Wait, what the hell? How come?
I don't know. What do I do?
He's probably
He's
backwards. It looks
temperamental.
like he's backwards. Yeah, that's right.
Thanks.
Yeah, see.
You can wear your baseball
There we
cap
go.
There we go.
backwards, but you cannot wear your skull cap backwards.
Yeah, this one's not embarrassing or like compromising or anything. It's every time I bring it up, people are always like kind of surprised by it. Name one thing that makes you nervous or uncomfortable. So, you know, like there's a Christopher Nolan movie coming out soon about like J. Robert.
Who's
What is it?
got it? You're gonna have to help me out here.
Like
who's that?
Inception. Like he made like he's a film director.
I have
Memento?
very much. So
Yeah.
Memento film director.
The Dark Knight. You know.
Okay.
Well, there's a film coming out about J. Robert. Is it J. Robert?
I don't
About
know about this.
About himself.
Yeah, and I think during his time, like developing the first atomic
Were we talking
bomb.
about people being narcissistic that are artists? Or?
I don't know which.
I'm
Wait.
confused here.
I've lost the conversation. We're
Well, I just
talking
don't-
about Christopher
sorry,
Nolan.
I'm not really good at knowing actor
Oh, like,
names.
no, he's so like, there's just a movie coming out about like the development of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, the
totally
atomic
different
bomb,
than what I
okay.
thought you were talking
No,
about.
no, this is.
I thought you were naming a guy called like Atomic
No.
Bomb Guy, or like your Atomic.
There's a film.
Like American Gladiators or something.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a film coming out about atomic bombs. And
Okay.
everyone was like, "Oh, did you watch the trailer or whatever?" And I'm like, I just can't. Like, so I have like a fear of atomic bombs or
Okay.
nuclear weapons.
Mhm.
I've
That's
seen
reasonable.
scenes. Well,
You?
no. But
What's
not,
the matter
no,
with
no,
you?
Not the destruction part. Just literally like the visual.
Not
Like the like
Yeah,
that part is
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
terrifying. But I'm saying like
Sure.
particularly like seeing like a big mushroom cloud.
that scares you.
Like that's pretty like
Mhm.
hyperventilating. Like I don't particularly like seeing
Okay.
that. And it's not tied to like the destruction, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just like seeing the grand scale of
it
it.
must be tied to that.
And
You
I'm-
sure? I mean,
no, because I'm like then it's like the other one's like giant waves. Like they're even the ones that are non-destructive, the ones that
Yeah.
like, people surf and stuff. Like
Yeah.
those scare the shit out of me.
they don't
too.
look scary until you see like a little person surfing underneath it.
No, they're scared. They're terrifying regardless. But yeah, that's like a one that's like
Interesting.
thing that makes me uncomfortable. Giant mushroom cloud. It's
That's an
Have you
interesting
seen the
one.
video? Are you do you mind being uncomfortable?
Oh no,
We
I mean,
talk about it.
I
Yeah.
just
I was
wanna
just going
see
to
it.
describe exactly what you just said you don't like.
No. I
There was so there was a video of these guys who were testing them out in I don't know where it is, Nevada or Arizona.
Yeah.
New Mexico.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, so you
okay.
know. So yeah, and they had the troops like come up, and they watched them really close, and then they blew up, and they had the cloud, and then they ran in and did practice work. This was in like I don't know what year. I don't want to say factually incorrect, but and then later everybody got sick and
Or like
died.
the radiation.
Yeah, because the radiation,
Yeah,
they didn't know
yeah.
the radiation existed. And so they had that. So, I don't know, does that have anything to do
Not
with
the
what you're
radiation. No, I mean, like I said, clearly it's terrifying to think of weapons that, that have that level of destruction.
So maybe
But-
you're worried about the I'm just trying to figure out what you're, like,
What exactly
the
it is.
political, like
No.
the political implication, or like what's the,
Super sorry.
The whole head came off.
happens with
I was
guitarists too, their strings snap, they keep working.
Yeah.
I feel like you got,
It works. It's balancing enough.
just wrap some more wire around it.
That could work. So irrational phobia is not so irrational.
No, but it's
Mine-
but it's often in
Mine is
conversation.
worms.
Worms?
Oh, worms.
Yeah. I have never touched a worm in all of my life.
Are you sure?
I don't think I have
Uh-huh.
either.
And
Anyone, like crawled on you,
and like when I
you know?
see them, my spine shakes, and I gotta get away from them. So
Yeah.
Worms.
so
So fishy.
I've tried to expose myself, but through means of like staring at them on the sidewalk after a rain,
Yeah.
and just like and people are walking on the sidewalk towards me.
Exposure therapy technique.
Yeah. So
Have you found that it works?
uh,
Like, do you find you desensitize yourself?
and I would say, "Oh, you're not so bad," or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like to a worm, my biggest fear, my biggest phobia in all the world, with all the horror in the world, and that's my biggest phobia. Isn't that?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's normal.
Well, that's kind of like
There are things like that for so many people.
right.
Yeah.
Well, whenever I bring it up, people are like, "Yeah, they're like that's." I
find
mean,
it
yeah,
hilarious.
everyone's terrified of atomic or nuclear weapons, but
Not in the way you are, though.
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, I can't look at those images, whatever. And so, to your point, like people are like, how is that irrational? Even though we're all sort of technically afraid of it, but I'm like, it's just specifically like the visuals. But I think it's tied to like the magnitude thing more so, because I'm like, sometimes I look at like depictions of space, like those, because most of them are like artist rendered. They're not necessarily like, like some of like even like the stuff that telescopes capture, they're interpreted by artists to like get those like crazy nebulas and
for
stuff.
sure.
But I'm like, even looking at those, sometimes I'm like, fucking terrifying just because it's like a giant gas cloud.
Yeah, because you're
But,
not
like,
scared of the picture. You're scared of its implications.
exactly how tiny I am.
So
basically.
there, maybe that's the key.
I think ultimately
you're scared of implications.
Yeah,
Would that be a good way to phrase it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How tiny we are, you know.
Yeah.
And so like I think like the waves, the big waves too, you know, seem like Jupiter, fucking terrifying too. You see what I mean?
I do. I see now. Understand.
You see like
where you're coming from.
the storm eye, you know, like
Yeah,
Jupiter,
I know the giant red eye.
Yeah, it's like
as they call it.
bigger than Earth.
Yeah, although I'm not. So personally, I'm not worried about the red eye on Jupiter.
Yeah, I
don't
can say
feel like it's
Not
gonna
yet.
I can say
Not
I'm
yet.
worried about it, but it's not yet.
You know, not. Right.
It's coming for us. Sooner or
I
later.
think it's, the odds are high.
I'll say what I'm scared about. Actually, was coming on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
So I've never been filmed before on anything, and I was like, "Fuck, this is kind of disturbing."
But that's even like that's exposure therapy. You know,
But it's
just sort of-
no. So that's my point. I did this on purpose because I met him and I was like, you know what? I gotta get over this fear of being on the internet. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, come on, everyone's like, look at
doing
these dumbasses on TikTok dancing around, doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Hey, I'm dumb, getting arrested now because I just said something about something stupid. I'm like, well, it can't be that bad. like,
Boy, were you
you know.
wrong.
But I was so that I don't know if maybe it's an irrational fear, but it should be at this point because
Yeah.
I don't know, grew up without film, and or everybody freaking pointing cameras in your face. There's an episode of Dark Mirror, I think.
Yeah.
Is that the name of the show?
That's probably the right one.
Yeah, they got a bunch of. It's sort of like a newer version of
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. Yeah. So, and one of them, they're just like filming this person while they're running around. You guys seen the show at all?
Yeah, I've seen every episode.
I haven't
Okay.
seen it, but people are always telling me to watch it. I should watch it.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of that show.
And they're just chasing this person around with cameras on their phones, like not helping them out while this person's running around like scared for their life. You're just like, we're gonna watch this, and I was like, that's stupid.
And then to a
and then
certain
like
degree-
7 years later or whatever, 6 years later, I don't know. I'm like, huh, not so far off.
Yeah, they
And like
know.
Truman Show, you know, like to a certain
Yeah.
extent, like all that stuff is applicable to varying degrees today.
This is back to the sci-fi thing.
It is actually, yeah.
We do recognize the danger in technological advancement, and I think that Black Mirror, I've read different reviews about it where it talks about itself in a way of like if you're not careful, this is going to happen. It's this sort of like a foreboding message, this warning to advancement. That's sort of the intention of it, you know?
Shocked by their number of things they got right.
Yeah.
There was another episode about some girl who like lost her social credit over time.
Right.
China just did that.
Yeah.
There's another episode about
Wait,
this
she lost her what?
social credit over time, and she like it was called downward something.
Uh-huh.
And there's another episode where this scary robot dog with guns attached to it chased down somebody in like a post-apocalyptic world.
God.
We'll look at Boston Dynamics and other companies that are building these things that are now building. They're building. Not, as far as I know, they haven't built something, but there was a photo release from China. Or a video release where they had a drone drop one of these things on a building, run around, and like shoot some stuff. And I was like, "Yep, that's wow. How do these guys predict this stuff? I mean, but it's not that hard to predict, I guess. If
That was based on an actual robot design too, right?
I don't know much. Just I'm gonna go watch it. And I found it. I like those shows.
Uh-huh.
I should watch it. Yeah, I'm like, there's a lot of like ethical, societal questions.
Yeah, this is very
They may
well
not-
proposed.
they may
Different
not-
directors, each one, I think.
They may not have the answers, but at least it's sort of like discourse sort of started.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I should watch it. Twilight Zone, obviously a little like old school, and so I think it's a difference. I mean, I think some of those things are probably still applicable today, but maybe they were like more
Uncle
sort of
Simon.
like
One of the
Some time
Twilight
later.
Zone ones was there was a missing floor. So I used to watch Twilight Zone. And there was a building that didn't have a 13th floor. which a lot of buildings
think a lot
don't
of buildings
in
don't.
New York,
Yeah.
especially for whatever superstitious reason. But this building occasionally had a 13th floor that would get stopped at, and actually, I think they used that in what was that movie?
The 13th floor.
There's like a half floor that they snuck off into.
It's probably Final Destination
Yeah,
or one. I mean, there have been so many like that.
A lot
I
of
think
stories about that, but
the elevators.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you scared of elevators?
Not particularly.
Good. You should.
Yeah.
They don't.
There's one in my building, so I really shouldn't be.
That's great.
Yeah. You ever been stuck in an elevator?
No. No. But my building's elevator has stopped, apparently. Like, my neighbors have told me that they got stuck.
What floor you live on?
4th. Yeah.
Well, that's not the worst.
No.
I live on a 9th floor, 8th floor, and the elevator stopped working, and then the other one stopped working.
That's a lot of stairs.
It's a lot of stairs. It was not. I mean, it was fine for me,
Yeah.
but it was not fine for some other people who couldn't get up and down.
Right.
And then last year I broke my leg. Okay, so like I was like, whoops, which like roller skating, it's kind of like.
Okay.
I was trying to practice for my friend. She rented out a roller skate rink for her 40th birthday party, and I was like, cool. I'm gonna brush up on my technique.
So you had done it before. It wasn't like
I had done it before at like 13.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm cool, I'm 40 something. I got this covered. All right, so I bought a pair of fancy pink roller skates, leather high, laced them up, and started skating around my basement. Doing great. Until I didn't.
Doing great.
Fell down. Just fell down, and I heard snap, snap. And I was like, that's not good. I looked behind me, and my foot was sticking upwards, and I was like going prone. I was like, that's not good. It's not good. And Katie, a friend of mine came out. Katie's my wife, and they're like, oh my god. So I crawled out to the car. Katie put like a little splint on me. Like basically I broke tibia. Just flopping around a little bit. And went to the hospital, got all that stitched up. So I'm scared of breaking my leg.
Roller
So
skates.
now, but thinking about
Roller
so I
derbies.
realized how hard it is to get over a curb. So finally I went out to go to a comedy show on these stilts, and I couldn't get over the goddamn curb. It was like this high.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my god, we need more accessibility for people. Like I didn't understand. Because I was just like, oh, just leap over things and crawl over a bridge, and I don't know, like duck under a train, it's fine. And then I realized, no, this is actually something that's pretty important. If an elevator had shut off on me when I was there, and like I would have been fucked. Like I don't know what I would have done. Like I don't know, hire someone to carry me down the stairs. Like
Right, if you can't make it over the curb, like
I
let
can't.
alone
How am I
a
going to
couple-
do that?
couple
I don't
stairs.
know.
Yeah.
Is it an important issue? I don't know.
That is important. This show is not wheelchair accessible.
I was expecting a ramp.
It's not, really. There is
Yeah.
no elevator in
At least
this
a
building. I'm
carry
not on the
person
first
or
floor.
something.
Yeah.
So what's that say?
It's not ADA.
It's not up to me.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
One day,
So
this will not
anyway,
be such an ableist show.
I am now scared. My point
It's
is,
true.
I am now scared of elevators.
Oh, you were actually afraid of it?
Well, I didn't used to be, and I know how the mechanics work, and I looked up all the braking mechanisms and the whole history of elevators because I'm a fucking dork, and where they came from and who builds them, and there's the weird ones in Europe where like they have the ones that rotate and the doors just open and close, and you have to hope you jump on and don't get.
Yeah, like the ones that have like just a little like rail thing that just.
No, there's ones that just keep going.
Oh, the ones that you just jump out and
Yeah, jump
in.
on,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah.
try not to get like
What?
chopped off, I guess.
Where are these?
Europe. I don't know exactly where. I'm basing this on the internet, so
I'll take that.
yeah. Anyway,
It's like a Final Destination. If you don't jump out, with enough time, or
Yeah.
you may get caught between the floors,
Mhm.
just chopped in half.
There it is.
Like the Flatiron elevators.
It
So
feels
old
like
school.
that.
It's really,
Yeah. With they painted over the psychotic killer clown.
So where is the
believe it or
flat
not.
You guys have been
Yeah.
talking about this a bunch.
Believe it or not.
Damon and North Avenue.
So I feel like I know it. I feel like I've been there. But Damon and what? North Avenue. Damon North Six Point. Six
Damon.
Point.
Yeah.
Damon, North Avenue, and
He's
was
over
it
there.
Milwaukee?
Yeah, I used to live there.
Yeah.
It's
But
it's
which
always
building?
been kind of an interesting neighborhood, even as it's been gentrified and stuff. It's like it's kept a lot of the diverse people who come through it, even if that's just in
You think
nightlife
so?
and stuff. In my experience, I always see them walking around. So
Yeah.
there are businesses that still attract all sorts of people, and it's like it's kept some element of that. So it's got the reputation, and it's not just families who are upset that nightlife exists
Well, that's true.
in a dense commercial center of the city.
Right.
But
I'm disappointed with Logan Square and what happened with Milwaukee.
Milwaukee is atrocious in Logan
Milwaukee-
Square, in my opinion. That neighborhood is no longer even resembling itself.
Where'd you say you live?
Humboldt Park.
Oh, you didn't say you lived there yet. Sorry.
No, I don't know. But
yeah.
I grew up in. You're talking about like where like the California Blue Line is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up just around the corner from there.
So the first
Okay.
bar. So I lived in Fullerton and Greenwood in 2007 or something like that. Still wasn't very super nice neighborhood. And I'd go to the California train to get on line to go downtown and go to work. And then the first bar that came in, what I call the tipping point, pretty much. Oh, it was what the hell was it called? It was right next to the train tracks. They just closed.
Boiler Room.
No, they were
What
way
about-
later. The other side.
Oh,
How's it-
yeah, I know what you're talking. The one that's next to the top.
Yeah, it's got the cool like aviary looking thing. That's for birds.
Is it a Sultan's Market now?
No.
No, he's saying on the other side, like between the wedge between like the Subway and the taqueria, the Mexican place.
Whatever.
I
Anyway,
see.
there's a
Okay.
bar that opened there, and then all of a sudden, all these bars started opening down in Milwaukee,
Yeah.
and I was like, and that's when I left to move downtown, and then I came back, and I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
There's just like a high rise here.
The high rise is the most atrocious part to me. at
Where did
least.
this thing come from?
Yeah.
And there's all these people, like I can't even drive down Milwaukee with all these people standing in line for shit. And I get it. There's cool clubs and stuff. People want to go out. I mean, I used to want to do that too. But like, I see what I'm trying to get at is I see the point about what you're saying is that somehow that 6 Point corner managed to maintain managed to be resilient and not have it. I mean, north on Damon, you've got just all the that used to be just a bunch of like random restaurants and houses. Now there's like fancy, I don't know, lingerie stores and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 Point still maintained its identity, I guess. Somehow.
You think the Flatiron has plays a role into any of this? Like bringing a collective
As far as its historical significance, maybe. I feel like that building has never really met its potential. That's unfortunate about it, honestly. But I think, or not in my experience with it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many squatters there.
I still don't
That,
understand.
like, I think that this is a typical story of an artist building, like an artist loft building, where it's zoned to be a commercial space only, and the artists kind of squat there for like 20 years as like low rent opportunities, without having to have roommates, and it's like, shit. I did it for 6 months. I had the studio for 4 years, but 6 months of those 4 years, I lived in it.
Okay.
I had to during the pandemic. It was like my business collapsed. I got rid of it. I moved here. Life is fine. But you have so many artists in that building and buildings like it that really have just squatted in their studios for 15 to 20 years, and it's like that limits the potential of the growth in a building like that. So that's what I'm talking about specifically.
Yeah.
And
what would you
now
want to see
that's
then?
kept the building from really progressing in a way where it really even had a chance to fail. So it was just sort of like, this is my hot take here.
It just got bought out too, or like
It did.
just got new management.
It did.
I'm like trying to figure out like, have you been there recently, like in that area?
I still haven't figured out which building that is.
It's the one on the corner, the big, the corner
one.
itself, the triangular,
Above the
above the Flatiron Bar where that was, above
Where
the
the
Note
double
when
was?
that was a place. The Note. Do you remember that place?
Oh, I'm on the wrong corner.
Yeah.
North.
the opposite
Yeah,
Mhm.
I got you. Okay, yes, I got it.
So the Double Door is now a Yeti store.
Oh, okay.
store.
I went, I went down the street and I found a Yeti store.
Yeah.
I was just walking. I had nothing to do. I had 3 hours to kill. I was like, I'll just walk home, which is north. I was walking down Milwaukee, looking at how different it was, and it was freaking me out. Like I was like, I kept getting lost. I kept checking the street signs. Like, this is not normal for me. And I walked past a Yeti store. I'm like, that can't. I'm lost. And then I went in to look at. I was like, this can't. Like, I'm not. Okay. Went out. Go around a corner. There's a Yeti store again. I'm like, oh my god, I am where I think I am. Because I got lost by the Yeti store.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I called my friend. I said, did you know there's a Yeti store where Tupperware used to be? He's like, yeah, I stopped buying Yeti stuff.
I mean,
there's I don't know if there's anything wrong with that company. I don't know.
you know,
But I mean, it was just disappointing.
They stopped paying their rent and they lost their lease. And
I think there was an
whatever
involved
reason there was for that,
I think
whether it was a rent increase or what, I truthfully don't fully know. But
as I recall,
that's from what I understand. That it's not like the Yeti came in
No,
for a
I'm
hostile
not blaming
takeover.
the Yeti at all.
They just were opportunists. It wasn't a hostile takeover or something.
No, not at all. What I think happened is the alderman got involved, and according to a couple newspaper articles at the time, he put some pressure on them to leave or else, and they got in a whole dispute, and there was a lawsuit and a bunch of other things. So I'm not blaming that company.
Yeah, I don't know any of these stories.
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
What?
I'll take your word for it. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. But I'm again not I was like, what? Because I saw it
It's
down
bizarre.
the street, also Nike.
Because you remember it
and
as that.
I saw it down the street
Right,
also.
right.
So I just kept. My point is, I kept seeing brand names all over the street, and what it used to be was not brand names. And that's the part I would say. I guess if we're talking about change in the neighborhood and stability or things that were retained. That's what I'm trying to get at. The essence is still there. There's still a diverse group of people. There's still a lot of, I don't know, art, like very cool people coming through. But at the same time, it's been super commercialized. And there's like a Starbucks. And I'm like, what? Like, it's just different where people are capitalizing on some of that. And it bothered me. And so I decided I don't want to come back to this neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean,
Understandable.
there's not a whole lot of cultural value per se. It used to be a lot of mom and pop shops. Like growing up, it was not as polished as it is. But yeah, I think it's clearly like a tourist attraction more so than a cultural staple now for the city.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some good shopping over there.
Yeah, if you need stuff.
I like the Carhartt store, the Doc Martens store. I get my shoelaces over there.
I go to Costco, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't
I
get
love
Doc
Costco.
Martens shoelaces at Costco.
Maybe if you wait like half a year, they might show up like off-brand. I mean,
Or they'll maybe get the real thing. You know? Costco can move. Costco can move some products.
yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them, to eventually sell Doc Martens.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I didn't mean to attack commercialism that hard. Maybe I did.
Oh, it doesn't bother me.
We're not part of that establishment.
You sure?
I'm
I was checking.
I'm
here.
working
Let me,
on it.
Let me just look around.
I'm
here.
working on it. I'll get
Alright.
there. I'll get there, I hope. One can dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we're in a studio, like at Cinespace, and Adam's painting,
Yeah.
you know, with a giant canvas and like,
And everybody's wearing a hot dog costume, and you know, that'll be real entertainment at that point. That'll be the real deal. I think that's what it's gonna take. That's what it's gonna take.
Well, to blend in with the lights, you know.
Well, are you talking about the wait, which Aquaman? The one?
I don't know. Was there more than
Jason Momoa,
I think there's the
that actor.
I was thinking of the cartoon.
Oh, the original with the Speedo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super Friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not great at cartoons either, but
I think if they brought that costume back, Jason Momoa would ask for a lot more money.
There you go.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
Do you like comic books or something? What makes you think of comic books at a time like this?
Well, it was just lights. I thought.
Oh yeah.
Aquaman theme. I think you mentioned it before.
Well, it was Little Mermaid. Before you arrived, I was singing part of their world.
Oh, that's I learned to play that
Just to
piano.
waken the space up. I was doing.
Actually, it was
Yeah? Could you play it on the kalimba right there
I don't know how to play a kalimba.
with your thumbs?
Pluck it. You just pluck
With
it.
your
Yeah, but I mean,
thumbs.
this doesn't really translate. But all right,
Who knows?
let's see.
Is that like a little amp? Like.
Yeah, it's a pickup. It plugs into an amp.
Whoa.
If you so wish.
Oh, they're marked. So wait, how's this work? No, work.
Yeah, like what is this sort of tuning?
Nice little instrument, right? The tune. It could use a tune-up, I'm sure.
Oh boy.
How would you tune it?
I don't know if I can do this on here.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
But this is pretty cool.
Isn't it a nice
Okay.
instrument? I keep it there in case anyone just feels like fiddling with it. Emily did on the last episode.
Almost sounds flat.
And it just kind of acted as sounded like a wind chime in the background during the conversation. It was kind of fun. It's a nice instrument.
Yeah, I don't play piano or anything, so like, you know, I don't know if these are just decorative or if there's like actually.
I have not tuned it in any specific
I would
way.
imagine they're for a reason because even putting paint on it, like I had a trumpet, and so trumpet, I almost was a trumpet prize major,
Yeah?
and then I was gonna apply for it. I wasn't good enough for it, but in high school I had a trumpet. Actually, I had a trumpet and a cornet. It was in the band, whatever, symphony, whatever. And I took my cornet just to be a dick to my band leader, whatever he's called. And I was like, fuck this. So I soaked, so they're covered in lacquer, so I soaked the thing. I figured out how to remove all the lacquer from it, which is basically dumping some chemicals in a bathtub and pissing off your parents. That's called delacquering.
That's a step one.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, I want to say I stole it from, or Dizzy Gillespie did it, or somebody, I forget exactly who did it, but, I was like, I'm going to just, yeah. And so once you take it off, your trumpet doesn't ring properly anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So just like, it doesn't have the right, like it's tuned, or not tuned, but like made a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I'll just paint it black and I'll make it better. It made it worse. So I was like, all right, let's go with muted style. And that didn't work. Whatever. So I don't know.
They're not. It's just a tin of different characteristic, basically.
Absolutely. So as soon as you modify it slightly, like brass instruments are super sensitive to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you pull out like a slide slightly, I mean that's the whole point of it. But the bell is really important. Like I had a box Stradivarius for a while, which I sold to some kid who was going to do way better than I was. And like,
What was it?
Box Stradivarius. It's like a Bach Stradivarius. It's like a specific type of trumpet.
Okay.
Oh, very cool. I mean, I know the name.
It's hard to get a
Stradivarius
hold
usually
of
for violins, but
Yeah, no, it was
there's
very.
like a Stradivarius trumpet.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're talking about like, is it a brand or is it like the ones from like the
It was
1700s? You know, like the
If
violins.
I had nobody's playing a 1700-year-old.
Okay, 'cause I'm like-
sorry, trumpet.
Unless they're
unless they're
in the
maybe.
symphony or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But even people in this is something that somehow my mother tracked down.
Okay.
I don't know how she did it. She found it, and it was like a present. And I was like, cool, all right, I'm gonna be a trumpetist. So I had that, and then I had my like muted or like mutated like
mutated
cornet over here, like just this like sideshow piece. And I had this one for like da da da. Yes, sir, we're good. Fuck you. You know, I don't know. Just two different approaches to things.
So you were
good. I like those descriptions as the two approaches to things. This could be used for anything.
Yeah.
It could be life. It could be. Mm-hmm.
So you were like very musical, like as a child, like by choice, or was it your parents? Because you mentioned you play guitar too.
Yeah, I got forced into music, kind of. I got forced into piano. Didn't like it. Rejected my piano teacher. Was like, I don't like it. Started trumpet, guitar, steel drums.
Okay.
Steel drums are fun.
It's a nice sound, yeah.
It is, but they're fucking hard. And even worse,
can't imagine.
they're impossibly expensive.
Yeah.
So if you pick up steel drums as like a hobby,
There's some rich people.
no, you like okay. I actually asked my teacher. I'm like, because I played double tenor, and of course, what you want to play is tenor. That's like the lead, double tenor, and then there's bass. But each one requires more drums.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, all right, how do I get one of these? He's like, well, there's a 13-year wait list for anyone who wants one out of Trinidad.
Oh my god.
And I was like, come on, how about I just get one made
in
in the U.S.? Is that a thing? He's like, no. I'm like, all right. Also, I didn't like these as much as I thought. Yeah, and then electronic music after that.
So like those like more traditional instruments, you were like, I'm gonna pass.
They're too expensive. I couldn't afford them. Like a nice piano, everything is really nice and any traditional instrument.
But on like guitars are, you know,
Guitar, I had to sell a guitar because I ran a mic. But like, yes, guitars are the kind of.
Also,
but also, I couldn't quite play guitar very well.
Okay.
I kind of
But electronic music, you like the.
Yeah, I was like, here. Like,
Okay.
have you ever messed around with that?
That's like probably the only thing that I'd be suited for in my temperament.
Yeah.
I've got too many other things that are going on for me to pick up any instrument that requires me to form new muscle memory like that over, you know, many hours of practice. That I can't imagine picking up an instrument like that. I mean,
But you're happy to like, let's say, put together sounds
like
on,
that little
something.
MIDI keyboard over there. I could mess around in Logic and make songs. Like I made the theme song from the show. Like I'm gonna make more music for the show.
Cool.
But you can play it live.
But yeah, it's like that's easy.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty low barrier of entry. That's like even if you're bad, you're not that bad.
Yeah.
And
But the muscle memory aspect is like.
I mean, a guitar, for instance. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a real dedication at this age. I'm 37, about to be 38. So I'm like, that's not like picking up a guitar as a 14-year-old.
Exactly. Right. The dexterity is. Even if you tried, it would take two. It might not even be there.
You have to.
There's only 4
You have to
chords.
really work to learn it.
There's A, E, G, D, or E flat, D. I mean, you're done.
Oh, okay.
It's all you need, right?
Just a couple.
According
chords.
to
Most songs can be played with like 4 chords. So.
Well, then maybe I'll pick one up.
Or ukulele.
Jeez, ukulele.
Would it turn?
Didgeridoo. You ever played a didgeridoo?
No.
Oh, it's really.
They are actually, they are intense.
Yeah.
I've never figured it out.
Well, if you play the trumpet.
I think that this painting is just about done.
Okay.
We're about 1 hour 53 minutes into the episode.
So should we do can we do one more card?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right, just kind of kick in the last 7 minutes.
Yeah. Do you need
that.
7 minutes? Or
It doesn't have to be.
Or how much time do you think you need?
I could clean it up, or I could mess it up.
So you want to stop or
I'm in a place where if I choose to mess it up, it might become more interesting
All
too,
right.
where I can go.
Well, we can do another card.
Let's do
Sure,
one more
let's do
card.
one more card.
When you,
I'll add
you
some
just
atmosphere.
shut us off when it's,
Yeah, whenever it's time.
when it's time.
Sure.
How does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right.
I think, wait, we chose the yellow
Are there-
one, a blue one. I think
are
there's
there-
like a pinkish
I think
or
there's
a red
other-
one.
There's
Yeah.
another. Yeah.
Maybe
This
the
one of
pink
these
one?
ones.
Or like
Oh,
a red
pink.
one.
Yeah, pink. Let's do pink. Is that red?
Yeah, 'cause I think we did a yellow and a
Yeah. Right. Cool.
blue
Perfect.
so
All
far.
right. Let's see what we got. What is guaranteed to bring you happiness? I turned it upside down.
Many a thing.
Finding a
Wanna
new
go
deck
first?
of cards. Finding a new deck of question cards.
We can work with it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brings
What's guaranteed to bring me happiness? Actually, I would say things that I've already experienced in the past, such as last maybe, I don't know, half an hour. I know for a fact that that has brought me some happiness. So
What has?
just now. I
Yeah.
enjoyed this experience.
Oh, it's been so
So I'm
lovely.
saying my point is the past is something that's guaranteed to bring me happiness because I already know that it did.
So,
So that's guaranteed.
Your own memories sometimes, you know.
Well, I'm just it's already happened, so I know it has occurred, so it's guaranteed. A little scientific of an analysis, but
I'll take it. It's better than what I could think of.
What were you thinking of?
what were you thinking of? Yeah.
What brings you happiness?
I always say something about painting and being under extreme duress, and it's true.
All right.
But I think I can come up with something new if we have now that it's a necessity.
No.
It's not a necessity.
I've made it one by saying these words.
Like
But,
painting this, for example, like against the clock, and then like delivering. You know,
Yeah.
like that's kind of like satisfying at the end. You know,
Do you
Oh,
have
absolutely.
to? So what's your
That's
actually?
that's some earned dopamine to call back to that.
This was never.
That is some real stuff. Like that
Cool.
was earned, definitely.
Fully-
But
Sorry,
yeah,
I never was fully explained, or I don't fully understand. What's your goal? You had to finish. Also, do yoga? You're doing like a half tree pose almost.
oh, I know it's important. I'm on my feet so much.
Do you is your goal to finish this at a certain time? Because you're like, I'm gonna mess it up now, and I'm confused. Was there like a
You know, the 2 hour mark is kind of just like a general mark.
he can't keep us here for like 6 hours.
Yeah, it's 2 hours is reasonable,
Yeah.
and if you look at my other paintings all around the room,
Mhm.
none of these were done in a single session. These took months to make. These took a long time. So that's the way that I typically paint. These paintings all make me a better painter.
I get it.
So
Yeah,
every time I make one of these, I become better at painting.
gotcha.
I learn something different. And this is like I'm studying on camera. I'm creating studies that are getting closer and closer and closer to realizing an idea of what are the most important parts of a painting. What should I tackle first? What would make this a better painting than the last one? Did I improve since the last one? It's really just about trying to make a good painting under tight constraints. And I'm using as many constraints as I can, but it's like it's a long shot to say any one of these would be a masterpiece. I don't believe it's even possible.
How would you? I mean, that's something that I've always found confusing to me, and maybe because I don't have a lot of background in art, based on my book reading.
Yeah, right. That
What would you call? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what a masterpiece means.
I would say a masterpiece is a piece created by a master of the craft
Okay, so
who has realized the aim of what they're doing and struggled with the piece and fought a war with the piece and won. And lost sometimes, but ultimately won. Lost battles sometimes, but ultimately won the war of each painting potentially becoming a masterpiece.
But what if they're like little masterpieces?
That would be one way to say it, like if I'm talking about an objective sort of path.
Right.
If we're talking about the marketplace's stance on what a masterpiece is, we're talking about a different thing altogether.
Yeah, but I'm like, so maybe these are like little masterpieces where you're dealing with like the guest's dialogue, your conversation. You're dealing with the time constraint, the physical aspect of standing for 2 hours as well. So I'm like, there are some little victories, and
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, so I snuck into this class once, which was at the Bach Gallery up in Evanston.
Yeah. I've got a friend who used to work there.
Okay. Well, I was going to school in Evanston, and
are you from Evanston?
no, I just went to school there. I'm from Elgin, South Elgin, technically.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Used to work in Elgin.
Really?
Yeah, I would deliver newspapers.
Me too.
No kidding.
Weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
You too?
Yeah.
Yes?
Interesting. For the Chicago Tribune?
No.
All right.
It was...
Arrival, then?
It was... hold on, let me think about this. I was fucking...
Is it like a regional newspaper?
It was 8. Yeah, it was. It was probably a Tribune. It has to be the Tribune. I don't want... whatever. Anyway, so...
Funny crossover there. Fun fact.
It is.
I wonder if there's actually a crossover there. Well, we'll never know. This is the last time we're ever speaking. Sorry, that's the rules.
You gotta paint
That was in the didn't you read the contract?
Disclosure, and I can't it's not an NDA. It's an never see you again. NS, how would that be? NSUG.
No, NSUA. Sorry,
NSUA.
you're right.
NSUA. Forgot to sign the NSUA. Sorry. Yeah, so this is what I did a lot at those classes. I guess kind of went to the wrong classes and convinced them I should be there. And it was taught by the curator of the Bach Museum at the time. And I forgot his name. But it was about questions, I guess, what is art? Was kind of it. But more specifically, what is art in the museum? Which was a sort of a jolting thing for me to understand. Because I was like, art's what people either interpret or what they paint. And, it's like, well, is art what an artist sees, or this is a classic, or is interpreted. And basically, what I got out of class is like, no, none of those things. Art is what is relevant to the community that we decide that makes sense for people to see. And the rest of it we put in the basement until it comes out, until show it, and we should.
That is the institutional worldview, isn't it?
Yeah, gross. And I was like, well, that's now. So I was like, wait, what? And I was confused for a minute, and I was like, no, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Because who else is gonna like there? And the point, the piece, the challenge that I had was to go find my team. Actually, we had to go find something relevant. We had $500 to go buy some art down on I almost said Wall Street, Jesus.
Jeez.
On
not bad.
Like what? Not what the fuck?
$500 to do.
We didn't. No, only one person got awarded the money.
Oh, okay.
So all the teams had the money to try to spend, but only one team got the money, and then that piece got to get put in the gallery.
So this was like a war game.
Yeah, they put us on, which in retrospect, not so cool. So we were like, all right, we're gonna pick this piece called, I think it was it's called Divorce Cake, which I forget who it was by, and it was like this guy cutting his divorce into slices or something. But it was relevant. it was not. I didn't think it was particularly great.
That's funny. Man.
But like the contract.
I
didn't really like it, but it didn't matter because my job wasn't to hunt down something I thought was pretty artistic. It didn't matter. My job was to find something that was relevant.
Okay.
And that's what we did. And it was a great proposal until I lost the slide film. Or they gave us slides, So we had slides because we used slides then. And we rented or borrowed slides from the place to show the thing to the art director, and I didn't have the museum curator. And at the class show up, I'm like, where the slides went?
Oh no!
Where the slides went? So I thought we would have been done good, but the point is, that's a different way to look at it too. And I was like, oh, there's another perspective as well.
Well, that way it keeps itself afloat forever.
Which is, I don't know, whatever that is.
It doesn't require the idea of timelessness to be even
No, it's just
real.
relevancy.
all that it is fashion.
Yes,
is what they're basically
maybe
describing
fashion's
it
a good way
as.
to put it. Yep.
And fashion changes, like the flavor of bubblegum changes. Like it fades and it dies. And to treat this craft that so many people dedicate their lives to the pursuit of mastery, like within the constraints of that they've constructed, like to treat that as though it is meaningless or worthless unless it is socially relevant to a constantly changing society is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
That's like a nightmare to humanity. Like
Well,
to in my point of view. To act like that's the only way is grotesque. And that's that's the only way I can see it. I'll have to be convinced one day, I think, that there's another way to look at that kind of, what do you call that? Totalitarian sort of thinking.
I'm sure there's many different ways to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the moving goalpost where you can never understand, the ultimate gaslighting. And
Maybe that's good.
I don't know.
All right. You don't agree. That's okay. You can say no.
Yeah.
Or just
Right.
leave it at ambiguous.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
I will leave it at
Maybe it is,
ambiguous
maybe it isn't.
until I have some
Yeah.
ability to be an authority on that topic,
Mhm.
which I would never will, because the authorities already hold the power.
Mm.
The painting's finished.
It is? No, I just saw you like toss the
Yeah,
the
so
rag down.
it sounds like we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been an excellent conversation.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing it because I'm like, the reveal, you know, is always a fun part of the
Yeah.
show. You want to see it first? Or do you want me to see it first?
I thought we should just see it together.
Okay.
If you can manage to fit back there and see it together, I think that everyone everyone seems to be able to.
All right.
I was asking Adam about like, do the guests wear particular clothing? You know, I was like, do I wear like something really
Yeah, that's
flat?
whatever people want. So I wear Crocs, for instance.
I was gonna
Why did I do
just
that?
texture.
That's cool, man.
Wow. What's in the middle?
The skull, the cup.
Yeah.
You got my
The
socks. I love
fireplace
my
coming
socks.
in there. Just with the he got
Yeah.
the red here.
The wood.
Yeah. Got a nicely textured shirt there.
Yeah, I was like, do I wear like less patterns, like more patterns? Adam's like, he's like, I like more pattern, or like he likes the challenge.
Yeah, I
guess,
like pattern. I think it makes it fun.
Yeah.
To
Right,
try
right.
to break up the scene. It's not
Right.
too much of the same. So
the items that we put up there got
Yeah.
included. You know, that's
I see that.
good element.
Oh, good point. Look
Yeah.
at actually.
The
That's what I was
little-
saying about texture. Like even the little
Little duck.
little
which
duck.
one?
I don't know if it's actually a mallard, but I pretended it was a mallard. You know, but it's got even a little blue hat on it. Yeah,
it is.
and you got your box with his
Yeah.
soul in it.
Yeah.
Good thing you put the cap back on it real quick.
Only the most important part snuck out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Cool, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I know, like in your email, you were mentioning like you don't know what's going to happen with all these paintings, like whether they're going to be a part of a collective sort of show or.
Yeah, I'll do shows every 22 or so episodes.
Cool.
So I'm treating the seasons that way.
That should be nice.
And then I'll invite all the guests who've been on the show and then viewers who've watched more than 6 minutes. And to be able to prove that they've watched more than 6 minutes of
Right.
the show.
Cool.
Nice, man.
I love it. It was pretty cool. This is a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
I said at the beginning, like I was just talking, I was like, this sounds like a fun idea, period. And it really is, and it has been.
One day, We're gonna paint everybody. That's the point.
That's the idea.
Not really.
I mean, you're working on it.
I can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. So
Amazon
so
did it
I have
with
some
packaging.
ideas. I've got some
You could probably do it
ideas.
with
Yeah.
painting.
I have ideas. I've got plots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plots without strategy.
Ah, is that how plots work?
No.